What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 7JJK Chapter 192 Advertisement. Yada sacrificed his own domain and physical strength to gain the ability to be an extremely terrifying existence. He can erase all existence, and can also make everything known fall into death. Even space, and infinite things like the illusory, can be drawn into the darkness. Although he has no domain, but it has the power to plunder all areas. As long as someone casts a realm on it, then the world will fall into the ruins where he is the home field. But, unfortunately, the realm of Ryuichi is the dead realm of Yindu, a realm with no rules. It is a field that cannot accept the intervention of other rules except Zenin Ryuichi's will. Zenin Ryuichi's will is the supreme ruler in this space. Click. Cuckoo. The power of Ku Ling quickly suppressed the consciousness of this 463, God. This one is watching the oldest existence of mankind. In an instant, become a puppet in the hands of Zenin Ryuichi. Now, with the completion of the lingering of Yada, Ryuichi's breath became somewhat mysterious. It was an insight about death that blossomed in Ryuichi's heart. The realm melts like snowflakes. Wow, Ryuichi sat cross-legged in the void. Like a deity, the gray power of death reverberated in him constantly. As early as the moment I saw a lie for the first time, Ryuichi had already penetrated part of the strength of the spirit into the opponent's body. It just so happened that Yada, who had swallowed a lie, included this little spiritual force in curse. Aroused by Ryuichi, a crack was exploded. Yada's curse is complete. Dispatch of Detained Spirits can control part of the curse rules of the detained spirit in the hands of the host. That is, exemption appears to it. But, this time Yada brought to Ryuichi the complete curse rules, which should not exist in modern society. In a trance. Whether everything in the world is gone or not, it floats slowly before his eyes. Advertisement. The perception of death continues to deepen. Feng Chi Men was originally the power to control the rules, during the period when Ryuichi realized death. Its progress is slowly rising. No, I should be immortal. Why, Yada, you lied to me. As Yada lost his self-consciousness, the immortals on the cursed island began to mourn before they died. The breath became extremely dazed. In the short time when the curse power dissipated, they seemed to finally walk out of the layers of chaos that had wrapped their consciousness. Click. Click. Along with Yada's loneliness, it was as if a certain rule was dispelled on the cursed island, and the black mist surrounding the cursed island began to slowly fade away. And the cursed fetus in the island that gave birth to the terrible cursed spirit also lost its movement. Since then, there is no curse island in this world, and Gate, a lie that has existed for thousands of years, will also be turned into ashes. Zenin really looked at Zenin Ryuichi in the sky with complicated eyes. There are so many flavors in my heart. He survived. Survived under the attack of countless immortals. It's just that one of his arms stayed on this island forever. But he is lucky. Here, of the dozens of people who landed on the island, there are only Gojo Satoru, Zenin Ryuichi, Zenin Mamo, and Gojo, who was protected by Gojo Satoru. The rest either died in Kamojare's hands, or were eaten as food by the immortals. Although Kamojare's body was not found, the medal of Kamo's family was seen from the mouth of an immortal. It's the sorrow of cursed spirit to live in the same era as you, Zenin really muttered to himself. It's also Jujutsu's sorrow. Are we destined to watch you move forward from behind? After saying this, Zenin Mamo suddenly showed a mocking smile. Even seeing your back as an extravagant hope, he limped towards the beach where he first assembled. As if I saw it, in this era, countless arrogances emerged, and Gojo Satoru stood on the top of the mountain and looked down on sentient beings. Behind him, a man dressed in white, with a smile on his mouth, seemed to hide everything like a shadow. Ooh! He picked up a flute in his hand and made a whining sound. As if calling something. Advertisement. Zenin Ryuichi opened his eyes slowly. Tap between your fingers. There was a ripple in the space in front of him. Although it seems that nothing has changed, in fact the small piece of space has fallen into death. The shortcomings are also obvious, the speed is too slow. Ryuichi muttered softly, but my heart is also very satisfied. This time on Cursed Island, although I knew that the door was just a lie, I gained Fei Lian's fusion power and Yada's power to return to the market. And because of his comprehension of the rules of death, Feng Chi Men's progress has reached Shaocheng. Go, Ryuichi. Gojo Satoru grabbed his brother in his hands at some point. Waved his palm to Ryuichi and flew towards the beach. Ryuichi was a step slower this time. Although he didn't say anything, he was quite concerned in his heart. He has a hunch. If he can't continue to become stronger, then there may really be a year when he won't even be able to see Ryuichi's back. No matter how strong it is, I still have to become stronger. An extremely determined look flashed across Gojo Satoru's eyes. From birth to now, he has never felt this need to catch up with others. He is like a person who is far ahead of this era, with no one standing beside him, but alone. Suddenly I found that there was this existence around me that could go hand in hand. However, it didn't take long for that existence to be half a step faster than himself, and then one step. This feeling is a feeling that Gojo Satoru has never seen in his life. Become stronger, become stronger. For the first time, this young boy who has been labeled the strongest mark from birth has such a strong desire. Zenin Ryuichi took a long breath. Looking at Shudao, his brows frowned slightly. Because he noticed that the powerful curse fetus under the curse island had disappeared out of thin air. Forget it, it will appear sooner or later. Ryuichi thought of the huge ball of light in the interior scene. Even in the future, it must have a deep causal relationship with him. Not in a hurry. A new era, is it coming? Ryuichi floated in the air. Looking at the sun slowly setting, there was something inexplicable flashing in his eyes. Chapter 193 Advertisement. Just like Yada, there is definitely more than one complete curse. This feeling is a perception that has appeared in Ryuichi's heart after swallowing Yada. It is as if there is a huge net that connects these perfect curses together. Let them all be able to perceive each other's existence. And at the top of this net is a shadow that cannot be seen. Just after the rule field where Ryuichi was about to die, he was clearly aware of it. This spider web constructed by the perfect curse. Moved. Fuso, Tokyo, the main meeting of the Jujutsu Association. One sat at his desk and reviewed the document. The pile of files makes people feel a little breathless when they look at it. But one seems to be very adaptable to this kind of work, and finishes the work at hand quickly. As the #1 acting president of the Jujutsu Association, he handles thousands of jujutsu affairs every day, and #1 never gives this right to others. Gaba, a crisp crack broke the silence in the office. The 23 precious brushes that were used for reviewing documents were cut in two. Do not know why. On the first today, I always feel a panic in my heart. He rubbed his brow lightly. I always feel that something bad will happen. The last time I made him feel this way, it was already 20 years ago, when he first performed the task of removing the mask. Bang bang bang. His heart was beating extremely fast, making a sound like thunder. There was a flash of flushing on his face. Puff. A mouthful of dark blood gushed out. Blood was splattered everywhere. And a black hairball quietly landed on the #1 table. #1, this is my last curse power, the news sent back. If my distraction is expelled from your body now, it means that I have lost consciousness, or have been eliminated by the chaos. It also means that Zenin Ryuichi is far more powerful than I thought. You know his character. You must be remembered by him that day. This time his strength has improved by leaps and bounds. Once you return to Fusang, you will definitely be liquidated by him. Although the black hairball didn't make a sound, the meaning he showed was constantly ringing in Ryuichi's mind. Advertisement. You only have one chance. Even if Ryuichi is strong at this moment, after going through the war, he will inevitably be in weakness. Before he returns to Fusang, while he is still in weakness, kill him. Otherwise it is you who die. The Miyamoto family's affairs have been invalidated, but as long as you kill Zenin Ryuichi and I promise your immortality, naturally there will be cursed spirit fulfilled for me. Finish saying this. The voice of the lie fell completely into silence. That group of black also lost its original strength, and began to turn into black energy and rise. #1's expression was savage at this moment, his eyes widened, his teeth clenched, blue veins bursting on his forehead, and blood vessels popping out frequently. Trash. Trash. What the oldest cursed spirit. What a black hand, it's all waste. A 16-year-old Mao child, can kill me, can kill me. Pung. He roared and smashed the table with one punch. Vent the anger in my heart. When Ryuichi was at Rukawa's house that day, a smile suddenly appeared in his heart. With this punch, he seemed to calm down. In the palm of his hand, he held a light blue pebble. Do you really want to get this far? No matter how tough the words were, #1 knew clearly in his heart. The strength of Yada and Lai is indeed stronger than his own. Since they were all eliminated by Ryuichi, I am afraid that he will no longer be that kid's opponent now. But how long has this passed? It's less than 3 months. What kind of monster is it that can make such rapid progress? #1 slumped on the sofa. Zenin Ryuichi is by no means an easy one. Since the other party said that he would come to visit, that guy would definitely come back. Although Tokyo is the place where Jujutsu has the most power. But will those old guys really come forward to stop Zenin Ryuichi? I'm afraid not necessarily. The identity of the Zen Source family, coupled with the dissatisfaction of those old guys with the Jujutsu Association. Even in Tokyo, I guess it is not that safe. Indecisiveness leads to disaster. A sharp light flashed in #1's eyes. He looked at the seaside outside the window. As if made up some kind of determination, from the safe behind him, he took out a special satellite phone. Advertisement diddy. After getting through the call that hadn't been dialed for many years, after 3 blind tones. The call is connected. It's you. I didn't expect that in this life, unexpectedly, I can receive your call. The voice on the other end of the phone trembled like an old woman about to die. Stop talking nonsense, I want my life alone, and the price is open, but I don't know if you can pick it up. #1 straightforwardly stated his request. There was a long sigh over there. When will Fusong have any business that we dare not accept? Although the voice on the other end of the phone is not loud, the self-confidence revealed is truly unparalleled. Haha, number 1 sneered, as if mocking the person's ignorance. This is the best way. I'm really afraid that after I say my name, you just hang up on my phone. There was also a chuckle from the other end, as if he didn't care about the solemnity in number 1's words. As long as the price is high enough, the Emperor, I can give you his head as a urinal. Zenin Ryuichi. I want his life. Without waiting for the other side to finish speaking, number 1 directly stated his goal. Seeing that the other end hadn't responded for a long time, his expression sank, and he took the phone worm off his ear. Number 1 asked softly, how do these guys know that there's a door thing in my hand? But it's not surprising that the stronger the organization, the more you know about Ryuichi's intelligence, and the deeper your strong feelings for him. There is no room for negotiation in hearing the other party's words. It seemed to fall into a certain dead silence. Open black lens bracket door, close black lens bracket. Scared, the other end of the phone fell into silence. In an instant, he's worth the price. Number 1 frowned again. The 3 A-level killers, the first-level curse division, were killed without seeing Zenin Ryuichi himself. I want the door in your hand. I can kill Zenin Ryuichi myself, but the price is Buddha bone relics. The old woman's voice was somewhat beyond doubt. Chapter 194. Advertisement in number 1's hand, the relic radiated waves of ripples. Let those who see him involuntarily feel a little calm in their hearts. This is the meeting gift that Alai once brought when he first appeared in front of him. In order to show the sincerity of the group of cursed spirit. Inside this door, named Buddha bone relic, sealed with a cursed spirit who is still sleeping. It can be said that it is the easiest to expand Jujutsu's door. But within 3 months of getting it, the number 1 that would enter the door once a month did not get the slightest Jujutsu up to now. Regarding door's information, he thought he had never leaked it out. But on the other end of the phone, since even the name of the door is clearly known, it is meaningless to not admit it. How did you know? Number 1 said in a deep voice. ZZZ. On the other end of the phone, there was a sound like electric current, as if something was interfering with the signal. But this mobile phone is not a simple evil mobile phone. There is a mixture of curse power in his materials. There will be absolutely no so-called interference. At this moment, the occurrence of this situation must be caused by the excessive fluctuation of the curse power of the guys on the opposite side. We, naturally, are channels. If you are not satisfied, you can use the power of the Jujutsu Association to play with us, but... The voice on the other side suddenly paused and turned into a charming girl's voice, speaking in a seductive tone. You guys have to have it too, the capital to play it. Every time there is a pick in the words, there is a bit of temptation that people can't control. Humph. Don't talk too much. Why? I'm angry. I don't know, but I can't hide it from us. 1. The monsters of the Jujutsu Association were taken away by your chairperson to the remaining empty shells. There, how can they bear us? Click. An anger rose in number 1's eyes instantly, and a crack appeared in the space in front of him under his anger. He gritted his teeth. Forcibly suppressed the anger in my heart. Okay. I agree to hand over the Buddha bone relics to you, but the rules remain the same. Take his head for it. The sound of number 1 seemed to be squeezed out from between the teeth. Advertisement with a bit of indescribable going out to murder. Okay, after 3 days, look, see what you want. The voice on the other end of the phone became the gloomy old woman again. I advise you to do it now, the first warning said. When do you do it? When will this person die? Shouldn't we have the final say? Toot toot. The voice fell, and 3 blind tones appeared on the phone. Pung. Click. 1 bitterly smashed the phone in his hand. The resentment in his eyes almost turned into a substantial overflow. 1, 2. Both dared to dominate the head of Lao Su's Lao Su. Damn. Don't even think of alive. Don't even think about it. Number 1 screamed wildly with red eyes. When will the chairman of the Jujutsu Association be so humiliated? When will people be so ignored? The monstrous anger almost wiped out number 1's mind. That is the consequence of the infinite increase of anger accumulated in countless little things. Buzzing, in the corner that number 1 didn't notice. The door that he had always believed to be asleep was shining a bit of blue light. Vaguely, it was like a huge and treacherous shadow floating on the Buddha bone relic, and he smiled and saw everything in sight. Zenin's backyard. It is still as retro and quiet as it used to be. It seemed that all the disputes could not disturb the tranquility in the courtyard. Even people who are impetuous in their hearts will fall into peace the moment they enter this courtyard. I only feel that there is a pair of soft big hands constantly stroking the restless heart. Advertisement. The autumn colors are different from the outside world. At this moment, the backyard of Zenin's house is filled with cherry blossoms, which seem to have mysterious powers covering the courtyard. The beautiful cherry blossoms slowly fall. It's like a superb view on earth. Under the tree, a huge tatami was quietly placed on the ground. Is an old man in black sitting cross-legged, holding a cup of tea and taking a sip. On the table, the fragrance overflows. It seems to have brought everything back to that hibiscus, the most beautiful and absurd era. Pleasure is a poison that goes deep into the bone marrow. So addicted to this, you are not afraid, lost in desire. Opposite the black-clothed old man was a blind old man dressed in white. There was an indescribable hole in the black hole. Diaresis ha ha, pleasure is blindly poisonous, but is it not a practice? The man in black was the great elder of the Zen Yuan family. Tonight, Zenin drank the precious green tea in the cup like cow drinking water. The precious tea leaves that have only been produced in a few decades are treated as chewing gum, and after a few chews, they spit out boringly. After enjoying it, I don't think it matters anymore. While talking, Zenin was lying on the tatami in the middle of the night with his eyes slightly squinted, looking at the blind old man who was quietly tasting tea with a smile on the opposite side. Gojo Yun, that kid in your family, it seems that he can't keep up with Ryuichi's steps. No hurry, no hurry. Xiao Wu has been sitting on the finish line since he was born, and he finally came out alone to make him walk seriously. I also want to thank you Zen Yuan family. Oh, no, I almost forgot. Zenin Ryuichi has nothing to do with your Zen source. The person who ridicules Zenin tomorrow night is the great elder of the contemporary Gojo family, and the only one who knows the true potential of Gojo Satoru. Ha, Zenin yawned indifferently as if he hadn't heard the taunt from the other party tomorrow night. It's so important for a family like ours to come back. In this era, it's hard to say whether big three sorcerer families can exist or not. It's a good thing that he is outside. As long as he has the blood of the Zenin family on his body, he doesn't recognize the family. If he is happy, I can give him the seed of my old bone. Zenin Mingyi's tone is lazy, but the meaning in the words is indeed so solemn. You guys, Gojo Yun nodded helplessly. It seemed to be facing a friend who made him feel helpless. If anyone else sees this scene, they will feel incredible, and they won't even believe their own eyes. Zenin Gojo, the enemy for generations. The blood is endless, and the enemy is endless. This has almost become the consensus of the entire Jujutsu community. Clothes. Chapter 195 Advertisement Zenin Gojo, the enemy for generations. The blood is endless, and the enemy is endless. These 16 words are the unspeakable pain engraved in the hearts of the two big families. Thousands of years ago the Jujutsu was the most brilliant era. Six Eyes Gojo. Shadow Method Zenin. These two legendary names should have become the pinnacle of that era. But it was in an imperial competition. The two strongest actually gave their lives together. In the eyes of outsiders, it was these two strongest who fought and died in order to fight for the only honor. But the facts are far from being as simple as imagined one. The generation of the patriarch of the Gojo family loves rhythm, loves peace, and does not like fighting. So although he has the power to match the natural disaster grade, he has indeed never used it against strangers. Even if the cursed spirit was removed, the adult would mourn the Buddhist scriptures with a sad expression on his face. He is such a strong man who is close to a weak character. How could it be such a painful killer in a competition? In contrast, the Zenin patriarch of that generation. It is even more unexpected. The original Zenin patriarch of that generation was simply a fan of love and romanticism, and he couldn't afford to fight. According to the records in the historical records of the Zenin family, patriarch of that generation, even participating in the royal contest was forced by the old patriarch's ears, and threatened him to give up all his 18 concubines if he didn't participate in the royal contest. Only then did he reluctantly go to the royal contest. Put aside their terrifying talents. Just talking about the personalities of these two people, in that era of power struggle, they belong to two great wonders. Obviously there's the power to calm everything. One rushes to the countries to lobby, the other hides at home to make people. Such two guys would actually lose their lives for a competition? The two families know it all in their hearts. There is no such possibility. Abandoning everything aside, at that time, in order to reassure the generals, big three sorcerer families seemed very disagreeable. But, secretly, that generation of Patriarch Gojo and Patriarch Zenin were surprisingly congenial. The two have also traveled to various countries together, but one is to lobby for peace, the other is to hunt for beauty. With regard to the relationship between these two people, how can they fight each other? This one is quirky inside and out, but, advertisement. Because what happened at the time was too sudden. After losing their children, the two old patriarchs couldn't listen to any persuasion at all. In the Jujutsu world, the strongest battle broke out. But in fact, this battle was only fought once, and in every remaining battle, someone provoked it. Although the pain of losing their children made the two elderly people almost lose their minds, the inheritance of the family finally made them calm down. However, at this time, things are already wrong. The Kamo family, which is the weakest in big three sorcerer families, inexplicably occupies the leading position. I don't know when, overtly and secretly, the forces of the Gojo family and the Zenin family have been eroded by the Kamo family. The two families immediately noticed something was wrong. The family that has been passed down for thousands of years quickly made their own decisions. Seek skin with tigers. They voluntarily put the right of judgment in the hands of Kamo's family. Obviously, the war between the two families was temporarily stopped due to the intervention of the Kamo family, but it left the proverb that the times are enemies. But secretly, the Zen Yuan family and the Gojo family support each other. Under the Kamo family conspiracy time and time again, try hard to preserve strength. Knowing that in the end the blood of the Gojo family and the Zenin family came out of the strong, it was relieved. The current matter is the deepest pain in the hearts of the two families. It is also a shame that cannot be erased above the honor of the family. Zenin Gojo, the enemy for generations. The blood is endless, and the enemy is endless. The original meaning of these 16 characters should be: Zenin Gojo, the era seeks enemies. The blood is endless, and the enemy is endless. Old Gojo, this time Kamo's foxtail can't hide. Elder Zenin poured himself a cup of tea again, and the malice in his tone was not concealed. Obviously, there is the elegance of a nobleman in his behavior, and he does not know why it is like an old wolf with fangs. The fierce and violent breath continued to wander around him. Elder Gojo, gently blew the heat in the teacup. In a pair of dark holes, there is an inexplicable fear. The buried Jujutsu can record all the information in the territory where he appeared. Kamo Jair, the young master of the Kamo family, colluded with the cursed spirit, and the evidence is conclusive, killing 15 members of the 100 families. Iron proof. No one can run away. Elder Gojo spoke slowly, but there was a cold sweat behind his back. Advertisement, this kind of means of consolidating all the plans at the end. People's heart trembled in the unknown. By the way, I was pulled out with one knife in 2 days. I guessed it, but even that knife was born. It seems that this era is really going to be messed up. The two seemed to be chatting casually about the trivialities of their children and grandchildren, and they didn't mention Kamo's family. Only, on the clearing behind the two, one after another, the figures continued to shuttle, and countless orders and information began to be passed on continuously. The two huge family machines began to be fully operational for the first time because of a seemingly chatty conversation. Crunch, crunch, the sound of dilapidated doorsteps was very harsh and made people feel a little irritable. In the ancestral hall of the Kamo family, a man with a front line stitched on his head seems to be drawing something on a picture scroll. There was a bit of inexplicable elegance between the brush and ink in his hand. The look on his face was kind. But the opposite is that behind him, a huge and incomparable cursed spirit was tied in the air by some kind of power. There are countless wounds on cursed spirit's body, and black blood flows from cursed spirit's body. Obviously it is a monster born in negative emotions, but his eyes are indeed full of despair. Hey, it's not suitable. The man put down the paintbrush in his hand, his tone mixed with a little disappointment. He picked up the handkerchief beside him and wiped his palm casually. A violent flash suddenly flashed in his eyes. Pung. Next moment, the cursed spirit, trapped in the air by an invisible force, exploded in the air like fireworks. Black blood splashed, and the smell of blood quickly swept every corner in the room. Cursed spirit blood is a viscous liquid that smells like fishy and disgusting. Most people feel nauseous at the first glance, and the man actually lifted the paintbrush again and smeared a trace of cursed spirit's black blood splashing around him. Then continue to complete your own work. Brother, why'd I always fail if you can do it? Chapter 196 Advertisement. The black blood of cursed spirit carries a bit of hatred from the heart. Randomly scattered in the room, the surrounding atmosphere became more and more treacherous. Oh. Inside the house, a few wailing were born out of thin air. Let everything become more a little hazy. Brother, you said, you will come back, right. Definitely, the man murmured to himself a few times. Sudden. A very fast flash suddenly appeared on the man's shoulder. It seems to have brought some information. Suddenly a look of abuse appeared on the man's face. Gia. Gojo's family, Zenin's family, after so many years, I actually want to turn over. It's so interesting. I still remember the scenes of those two guys that day. They are really amazing and brilliant characters, but it's a pity that their lives are so fragile. A gloom flashed across the man's eyes. It's not time for you to make trouble, please be quiet. Buzzing. 2 documents between his fingers appeared out of thin air. Driven by a strange force, it slowly burned. Hoo. Tell the old things from those 2 families. If you want the secrets to be kept, just take care of your own people. Otherwise, he let out a sneer. The sound was as disgusting as a hoarse owl. Lie, Yada, you 2 guys, it's really uncertain. Although everything is planned, you can still keep Zenin Ryuichi and Gojo Satoru alive. It's really uncomfortable, but it doesn't matter. Everything has to start again. Wow, oh. A burst of black aura rolled over him, like a puddle of mud, constantly flowing toward the ground, and the man's figure continued to melt with the appearance of the mud. Only left in that room, the dirty blood of cursed spirit was being swallowed by some unknown force. Okay, Master Ryuichi, we will send you here. Advertisement, from today onwards, our family will be completely free, thank you for this. The boss of the boat looked at Ryuichi in front of him, his whole body trembling with excitement, and the beard around his mouth shook exaggeratedly. His family has carried the responsibility of Cursed Island for generations, and for this so-called honor, members of his family are not allowed to go ashore at will. The helm cannot open the star map because it is contaminated with the breath of the earth. But After leaving this time, Cursed Island began to break down, twisted, and it is best to be scattered among the countless fragments. Completely sank into the bottom of the sea, and his family finally has no need to guard this ship forever. The sailors of a boat looked at Ryuichi with immense gratitude. Obviously, the boy in front of him is called a demon by the Jujutsu world. But in their eyes, Ryuichi is no different from their savior. I didn't mean to help you specifically, so you don't have to be so grateful to me. Ryuichi still looks so lazy. Leaning his hands behind his head, he looked like an ordinary teenager who was not awake. He really didn't know that the boss of the ship and their clan actually shouldered such a responsibility, and destroying Curse Island was an unexpected result. Therefore, thanks to this family, I don't think it is necessary. Moreover, with his character, since he did it, can't care more. But he didn't know that with this move, his image became taller and stalwart in the eyes of this writer. Oh my god, Mom, I saw a hero. Is this a real man? What a hero. This is clearly a god. Damn it. Those people with no conscience dare to say that such a great Mr. Ryuichi is a demon. I will let them know that Mr. Ryuichi is great. A strong sailor clenched his fist angrily, his forehead burst into blue veins. The Jujutsu division who has been on the sea all year round needs to experience more hardships, so their strength is stronger than the Jujutsu division of the same level by 3 points. His whole body's curse exploded, as if he couldn't crush those guys who called Zenin Ryuichi a demon. As soon as this sentence came out, it could be said that it stirred up a storm. All the sailors shouted, "Yes, let Lao Su know who said this. Lao Su must kill him." Damn. Dare to say that Lord Ryuichi just can't live with us. I hit his dog's head with a punch, seeking flowers. Just when everyone was emotional, Ryuichi only felt a little irritable in his ears. Seeing Fusang had appeared before his eyes, he turned his head and said hello to Gojo Satoru. Advertisement, it's too noisy, I'm leaving now, the voice settled. An array of gossips emerged under the feet, then it kept shrinking in his palm. Shocking. His figure is constantly shuttled in the void. Almost in the blink of an eye, he was nowhere to be found. Gojo Satoru was lying on the rocking chair. Wearing sunglasses, it's like falling asleep. But the fluctuation of his curse power had indeed told him everything. Can the unrestricted technique resist Ryuichi's weird teleportation ability? Just thinking of this question, Gojo Satoru shook his head directly. It's too difficult, at least the current self is completely unable to stop Ryuichi. An inexplicable pressure appeared in Gojo Satoru's heart. But then there was a look of expectation on his face. It's still early to the 12-year appointment. Ryuichi, don't slack off, as long as you dare to pause, you will be far behind me. He is Gojo Satoru, he is the strongest, Zenin Ryuichi flashed several times in the void. It has already appeared on Tokyo, between body-shaped twists. Landed in a sparsely populated place, he didn't remember to go back to the house of everything. Things like people are always strange, before returning, he always missed his exclusive bed. After coming back, he wasn't so anxious to go back, after all, he just used the method of divination to calculate at will. I found that none of my employees were in the house of everything. As an intern, Nanami Kento began to commission the removal. And Zenin Shire, the nominal acting boss, was actually waiting for his son to open the door for him. After careful calculation, it has been almost a month, this guy hasn't even seen his son's good face. Suddenly a childish voice rang in his ear. Is it great to be older than me? Being older than me is stronger than me. B*************. D. Then there was a sound of collision between fists and flesh. And the screams of a half-sized boy. Earth, Chapter 197. Advertisement. According to Ryuichi's temperament, this kind of trivial matter like a punk's fighting, he was not interested in participating, but today it does seem like Mei has a kind of guidance. 6 Immortal Thief Treasury's intuition tells Ryuichi that what happened before will be very interesting. This feeling happened to Ryuichi for the first time. So he walked out of the depths of the jungle, crossed the deep and came to a park. I saw that a small child was riding on a teenage boy with a vicious face. There was a huge gap in physical strength and height, but this little guy could actually kill that boy. Press on the ground. One punch after another hit his face, knocking that out completely. Pooh. The child glanced at the fainted teenager with disdain, grabbed his collar and shook it. Seeing that the other party had no response, he threw the man to the ground without interest. Ryuichi glanced casually. I found that this little guy also had several wounds on his body. However, with such a disparity in strength, it was not easy for him to stun the teenager who was older than him. The little boy turned his head abruptly, looking at Zenin Ryuichi behind the sound. There were a few imperceptible vigilances in his surly eyes. Like a beast with wild intuition, he perceives a great threat in Ryuichi. That is a kind of oppression that the lamb is completely unable to resist when facing humans. Who are you? Are you here to avenge him? Even though his voice was trembling a bit, the boy still shouted to Ryuichi full of breath. However, a smile crossed the corner of Ryuichi's mouth. It seems that he yelled at himself again, but in fact the whole body's strength was concentrated on his feet. As long as Ryuichi made a little movement, he was ready to scream and start running. Base. What? The little boy suddenly let out an exclamation, because he was surprised to find that the man who had brought him a powerful threat had disappeared in front of him, but it was even more weird. The feeling of being locked in by a natural enemy did not disappear. It's a damn thing. Don't turn around and fool around. Todo Aoi will not be afraid of you. Is it? A pair of big hands appeared directly behind him, grabbed the boy's neck and caught him in the air. Sure enough, this brain fixes the blame. Ryuichi thought in his heart that this guy is one of the strongest new generations in the future, Todo Aoi. Advertisement, I can't beat you. Todo Aoi was caught in Ryuichi's hand, and turned into a casual disposition, as if he had recognized it. Man can be used to admit everything from time to time. He shouted slogans, his two eyes were rolling, staring at Ryuichi stubbornly. Look at this stubborn little guy. A hint of evil flashed in Ryuichi's eyes. His toes tapped slightly, amidst the surging black mist. Countless cursed spirit howls and sorrows appeared in Ryuichi's eyes, deeply engraved in Todo Aoi's eyes. Are the countless cursed spirits constantly rushing like evil spirits in hell? Falling in the eyes of Todo Aoi, it's like being surrounded by countless terrifying monsters. The body couldn't stop shaking. Wow, finally, the young Todo Aoi finally couldn't hold back, and let out the cry that he should have at this age. Under such a tyrannical high pressure, it is difficult for a general second-level jujutsu master to hold it for 5 seconds, but Todo Aoi does. 10 seconds passed. Click. Click. Ryuichi took the camera out of his hand from nowhere, and shot Todo Aoi violently at the crying Todo Aoi. Then he threw Todo Aoi aside with satisfaction. Thinking of the arrogant look of this guy in the future, it would be fun to throw these few photos of him now. Ryuichi thought maliciously. Crack. Dignified Zenin Ryuichi is the strongest in the Jujutsu world bullying children here. A clear and sweet female voice sounded. Ryuichi looked up. I only saw a blonde woman with a hot figure and a proud bust wearing a tights, riding on a motorcycle, with a look of interest to look at Ryuichi and Todo Aoi, who was crying constantly on the ground. Reminiscent of the timeline at this time, coupled with the Todo Aoi next to him, the identity of the other party has already been revealed. The Komer is really the only female jujutsu teacher among all the 3 super jujutsu teachers in the world. 99 Yuji. Introduce myself, my name is Yuki, and I am a jujutsu teacher. She jumped in front of Ryuichi one by one. Looking at Zenin Ryuichi in front of him with excitement, he was still muttering. Advertisement, finally saw someone alive. A few black lines appeared on Ryuichi's head. If you don't see the living, can you see the dead? Is this person afraid that something is wrong? Although Ryuichi knows that there are many secrets hidden behind Juyujiyu, and even later about Sha Yuja's defection, she also caused a huge factor. But Ryuichi still finds it difficult to get any interest in Yuki. Sorry, I'm not interested in jujutsu teacher or something. Ryuichi waved his hand perfunctorily. The faint blue under his feet gradually surged, and the space began to ripple. But Yuki seemed indifferent to Ryuichi's boring behavior. After hearing Ryuichi vaguely stated that she was not interested in herself, she actually grabbed the corner of Ryuichi's clothes. Looking at Ryuichi excitedly, there was a flush on his face. What is your favorite type of woman? 99 Yuki's voice was very serious, and she stared closely at Zenin Ryuichi's eyes. In the pair of moon-white eyes, almost indulged. Click. 99 Yuki used both hands to pinch his face fiercely, as if he had calmed down. Continue to say. I think that sexual addiction determines a person's taste and height. And Gojo Satoru considers you in the whole jujutsu world. What kind of woman do you like? It's a loli. It's still a wife. Sister Yu is still a girl. Flat-chested cows. What kind of woman are you interested in? I don't know when. Todo Aoi, who has been acting as the background sound, stopped crying long ago. Eavesdropping on the conversation between the two with 2 big ears erected. What kind of girl, loli, Yuji, for Todo Aoi at this age, is tantamount to opening the door to a new world. With such a good thing, who would cry so much? I like tall women with big butts. Todo Aoi said with a serious face in Tongan. Chapter 198 Advertisement. With Todo Aoi's words, the scene fell into an awkward situation. 99 Yuki also didn't expect this little child would suddenly jump out to pick up the stubborn. However, if Zenin Ryuichi does not appear here, this question of Juju Yuji itself should be raised to Todo Aoi. But because of Ryuichi's random entry, some subtle changes have taken place in the original timeline. 99 Yuki, who was supposed to be the guide of Todo Aoi, is now focusing on Zenin Ryuichi. His words and deeds are shaking the man in the jujutsu world. Naturally, he was not in the mood to care for a little devil who didn't even grow up his hair. Zenin Ryuichi saw a bit of embarrassment on Yuki's face, but it felt a bit interesting. Then it seemed to remember something. Looking at 99 Yuki, there was a trace of abuse at the corner of his mouth. What do you think is the way to make cursed spirit disappear completely? Ryuichi's voice was not loud, but every word clearly appeared in Yuki's mind. 2399 Yuki's heart seemed to be squeezed fiercely by a big hand. There was a hint of confusion in his eyes. This question, Zenin Ryuichi, do you know anything? Or, he himself is. People there, it wasn't until a while later that Yuki Niinyu 9 seemed to have experienced some fierce ideological struggle. His eyes condensed slightly, and he looked at Ryuichi and said seriously. There are only two ways to solve cursed spirit once and for all. The first one is to allow all human beings to learn to master the magic power in the body, so that the power of negative emotions cannot overflow. In this way, the cursed spirit cannot be born, but this method is almost impossible to achieve. Because, at the moment Jujutsu Master was born, there was an engraving in his body, so he could master the power of the curse, but it is almost impossible to plant an engraving on the entire human body. As he spoke, Yuki's eyes kept watching Ryuichi's eyes. It seemed that there were countless stars circulating in it, which made her almost addicted to it. Cough. In the end, it was Ryuichi's soft cough that made Yuki Kuyuki out of that dangerous state. The second method. Yuki's voice paused for a while, and his eyes kept walking on Ryuichi's nearly perfect cheeks. As if thinking about whether I should say it or not. But, without waiting for her to speak, Ryuichi seemed to see through his thoughts. Said with a chuckle at the corner of his mouth. The second way is to kill ordinary humans who cannot master jujutsu. Advertisement. Leave an era with only jujutsu teacher, this era will not breed new cursed spirit. It's really a good way, Ryuichi looked at him with a bit of disdain in the eyes of Yuki, who had been struck by lightning. It doesn't matter what purpose you have, or whatever you want. I don't care, and it doesn't matter, but, for the sake of Gojo Satoru's face, I want to remind you. Ryuichi walked to Yuki's side and gently lifted the long hair from her ear to her ear. Whispered. Don't come to provoke me, and don't make me feel bothered. Because I am more inclined to solve the troublemaker than to solve the trouble? Base. The voice fell. A mysterious aura appeared on Ryuichi's body. The body shape also constantly becomes trance. Finally, in the complicated eyes of 99 Yuki. Slowly disappeared into the park. Zenin Ryuichi, what exactly do you know? If he is from there, no. A monster like him is definitely not from there. What do you know? 99 Yuji's eyes showed an indescribable mood. A flash ride on the motorcycle. Buzzing, rumble. Amidst the roar of the motorcycle, 99 grew out of Kian. In the park, only Todo Aoi was left with a blind face. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? 3 big question marks were fixed on his head. Ah, the knocked out man groaned at his feet. Todo Aoi's attention instantly focused on him. Oh shit. Pung. Then he kicked directly on that guy's head. Advertisement. The other party didn't even hum, and immediately fell into a coma. Everything inside the house. Zenin Ryuichi has been lying on his own rocking chair for a long time. A glass of precious red wine in his hand is constantly rippling. The strong aroma of wine wafted in the office. Boss, it's best not to drink during working hours. Although young, but very serious, Nanami Kento looked at Ryuichi earnestly. I tapped the red wine in Ryuichi's hand with my finger. Ryuichi shrugged his shoulders indifferently. Nanami, what the boss means is to do whatever you want. Upon hearing this, Nanami Kento nodded, as if he agreed with Ryuichi's words. Open the notebook in hand and quickly record this passage. If Zenin Shear was here, he would have rolled his eyes to Ryuichi a long time ago, then turned around and went to the refrigerator to take out a can of beer and drank it happily. Looking at Nanami Kento, who took the record seriously. For the first time, Ryuichi felt that it was the right choice to pull Nanami Kento into the house of everything. Although Zenin has no serious time, but his fighting skills are tyrannical. He played against Nanami Kento. Nanami's jujutsu and physical skills are progressing rapidly. Now Nanami Kento already has the strength of a second-level jujutsu division. Of course, his strength has improved rapidly, and I have to thank one person, that is Shear's son Fushiguro Megumi. Every time Shire aided his son, he put his anger on Nanami Kento's body. The start is also extra serious. By the way, boss, the company was recently nominated by the jujutsu community. From now on, the Fuso government will bear the cost of removing cursed spirit. Also, interns in the House of Everything can skip the Jujutsu Association and directly certified jujutsu teachers. Oh, what do you think about this? Ryuichi didn't care about taking a sip of the wine, narrowing his eyes. Nanami on the side pushed his glasses and said, someone wants you to sing against the Jujutsu Association, the boss. Hearing this, Ryuichi nodded in satisfaction, as expected to be the only normal people in this world. And he is also a super steward with extremely high double quotient. Speaking of the main point of the matter in one sentence. Chapter 199 Advertisement is one of the people with the highest fighting IQ in the original book. Nanami Kento's wisdom can only be reflected in all aspects. Although he is not old now, but he was able to view the undercurrents in the jujutsu world from a bird's eye view. Ryuichi's House of All Things was nominated by the Fuso government and became an official power that can receive subsidies. It is tantamount to directly completing the transformation from the wild cat to the house cat. This is a wish that countless families have spent many years and may not be able to achieve. The cost of eliminating cursed spirit is huge. Without the support of the state, it is extremely difficult to rely solely on individuals or small groups. But, Ryuichi, a house of everything with only 3 people, actually completed the corner overtaking directly. It has directly become a force recognized by the government. The most important thing is that it has the qualification to certify jujutsu teachers directly by skipping the Jujutsu Association. This is almost the highest right in the jujutsu world. The system in the jujutsu world is pedantic. Obviously it is a world where strength is king, but it has implemented an old recommendation system. It seemed ridiculous in Ryuichi's eyes. But no matter how boring it is, this right is still beyond the reach of all jujutsu forces. The right of jujutsu teacher level certification has been firmly grasped by the Jujutsu Association. Stronger than big 3 sorcerer families, they are not qualified to be able to touch the rights that are related to the formation of the jujutsu world. But it fell directly on Ryuichi, in other words. As long as Ryuichi wants, he can even arbitrarily certify the level of jujutsu teacher. This right is simply outrageous. If ordinary forces were consigned to this right, they would definitely not be able to find North happily. But it fell in the eyes of Ryuichi and Nanami Kento. This right has changed its meaning. It is obvious that I want to make my House of Everything and Jujutsu Association sing on the stage. The guy who is the #1 acting president of the Jujutsu Association, Ryuichi doesn't like him at all, but he doesn't mind playing with that guy. But he really didn't have the slightest interest in being a knife in the hands of others. Nanami, what do you think I would do one diaresis? Ryuichi put his hands in front of him, his chin pressed on his palm, and a dark and uncertain light appeared in his eyes. Advertisement seeing what his boss looks like at the moment. Nanami Kento's body was straight and he took out the document from the thick folder. Boss, you are the only person in the jujutsu world who has freedom. If this is the case, any net that wants to tie you down should. Stabbed. Wipe. Nanami Kento expressionlessly shattered the rights in his hand that was enough to attract countless people. The power that was enough to shock the entire jujutsu world was turned into a ball by the 15-year-old boy without hesitation, and was thrown into the trash can behind him. Between demeanors, he has a composure, as if he has done a trivial thing. It is already a look of indifferent. Any net that wants to bind you should be torn. Nanami's voice, Furui, is not wave-like, but still so serious and rigid. Sudden. His eyes turned abruptly, and he looked out the corner of the window. There was something intriguing in his eyes, and then he stretched out a finger, as if pointing to someone at the group of documents that had been thrown into the trash can. On the tall building opposite, a man in a black uniform saw such a scene. Suddenly, his face was stunned. He was sent by the government to find Zenin Ryuichi to discuss some matters. But out of habit, he chose to observe the legendary victory over Gojo Satoru, the strongest. Then he saw the scene that he couldn't believe until now. The supreme right that made the jujutsu world shake was actually thrown in the trash can like waste paper. The most important thing is that brat boy discovered himself. The man in black frowned. Master Tianyuan's plan doesn't seem to work anymore. What is thinking of the kid now? He suppressed the shock in his heart and glanced at the House of Everything again, and suddenly found that the young boss had disappeared from his seat. Are you looking for me? A cold voice slowly sounded behind the man in black one. The voice was like the babbling of a hell demon, with endless danger. Guru. The black-clothed man's eyes shrank suddenly, and the cold sweat from his whole body could not help flowing out, his hair standing upright. A chill rose from his heart. Advertisement, it seems that I don't need to introduce my identity. Next moment. Zenin Ryuichi's figure suddenly appeared in front of the man in black like a ghost. The expression on his face was somewhat playful, and his iconic smile still hung on the corner of his mouth. It was obviously like a boy next door, but for some reason, the man in black always felt that there was an indescribable danger in this young man. It is a kind of feedback from survival instinct. Diaresis, don't be nervous, I am not interested in what you want to do, but I have a few words that I want you to convey to the people behind you. No trouble, right? Ryuichi's tone seemed to be discussing with the man in black, but his eyes flashed with a fierce, stern spirit. It is an honor for me to serve Master Zenin Ryuichi. The man in black said categorically without hesitation. That really troubles you. Ryuichi rubbed his chin casually. The voice was still somewhat lazy. I am not interested in the disputes between you, let alone the so-called rights in your eyes. I don't like to be disturbed, and I don't like to be added some inexplicable identity for no reason. If you want to play a Game of Thrones, whatever you want, but be sure to stay away from me, otherwise. I am not the same as Gojo, I really know, Wang Zhao, and kill them all. Ryuichi's voice was a bit of jokes, and his tone was a bit of youthful briskness. However, when these words fell in the eyes of the man in black, the blood in his body seemed to solidify, and the whole person froze in place. Ryuichi's murderous intent leaked out inadvertently, almost completely destroying his mind. Click. Thank you. Ryuichi walked to the side of the man in black and slapped him on the shoulder at random, which made the man in black relieved as if he were liberated. I don't know when, the clothes behind him have been completely wetted by cold sweat. Ryuichi disappeared beside him after saying this. On the boss chair of the House of All Things, a young man who was lazy as if he would fall asleep at any time, suddenly turned around. glancing at him arrogantly. At a glance, it seems like Tianwei is coming to the world. Chapter 200 Advertisement. The black body man stood in place as if struck by lightning, and the cursed power of his body collapsed somewhat due to tension. Just being stared at, it was as if he had encountered some terrible attack. Why is there such a terrible monster in this world? He looked at Ryuichi's mouth slowly closing, as if he understood something. Base. In an instant, a tyrannical force exploded under his feet, and he didn't dare to stay in the slightest. It was as if there was a terrifying scourge of gods behind him. Boss, who can surrender such a large power at will, who in the Jujutsu community can do it? Nanami Kento was not surprised at Zenin Ryuichi, who disappeared in an instant and appeared again. Looking at his boss seriously, his brain is running fast. Even the Fuso government will not arbitrarily hand over such a huge power. This is almost clearly against the Jujutsu Association. After thinking about it, Nanami Kento couldn't figure out what kind of existence it was that could easily surrender such a great power. Boy, have you heard of it, Tien Yuan? Not waiting for Ryuichi to answer. Zenin's unruly voice rang suddenly. Crunch, the originally closed window was pushed open by force. A big hand brazenly appeared on the window sill, pung. Then, the figure flickered. Zenin Shire appeared on the sofa instantly like a black thunder. Holding a bottle of cold beer in his hand that has remained unchanged for thousands of years. Oh, long time no see. Shi-Er-hun put his feet on the coffee table without hesitation, his neat suits were crumpled by him, just like a middle-aged uncle. Looking at Zenin Ryuichi drunkly. Ryuichi had guessed Shire's temperament, and nodded slightly, even if he had said hello. Senior Shire, who is Tianyuan, can he actually change the situation in the entire Jujutsu world? Nanami Kento respectfully bowed to a junior salute, and then he couldn't wait to ask. Even perhaps he has already adapted to his very dead younger generation. Take a sip of beer. Tianyuan is the oldest known Jujutsu teacher in the world. It is said that he already existed in the world when the Jujutsu teacher's era just emerged. The Jujutsu he holds is called Undead Jujutsu. Advertisement. Upon hearing this, Nanami Kento's face was rarely hit with a bit of astonishment. Existence that has lived for thousands of years? Immortal Jujutsu? Shire's words made Nanami Kento unimaginable. Although his mind has matured extremely, his experience is still relatively shallow. It's still far away from the existence of Tien Yuan's level. An existence that has lived for 1,000 years, how strong is his strength? Compared with the boss, who is stronger, Nanami Kento muttered to himself. Jujutsu, who has survived for thousands of years, must have a reserve of mantra power in his body far beyond the limit that humans can imagine now. Thousands of years of curse power accumulation, thousands of years of combat experience, all these are superimposed on a person, it will be a monster how to fight. Subconsciously, Nanami Kento couldn't compare Tianyuan with the strongest existence in his mind, Zenin Ryuichi. Puff. Shi-Er on the side heard his words and couldn't help but chuckle. He squeezed the beer bottle he had finished drinking with his fingers at random, and then threw it into the trash can. Opened his mouth and said, "Immortality does not mean I am not old. That guy probably doesn't know if he has the ability to act now. If he really fights with the boss, he probably won't be able to hold on for 3 rounds. Indeed. Although Tianyuan is an immortal existence, it has not achieved immortality. The function of the body has already degraded to a stage, not to mention Zenin Ryuichi. Now it is still a question whether he can stand up or not. It turned out to be so, but that's right. Even if there is not much strength left in a 1,000-year-old existence, the wisdom it possesses is very precious. Wisdom is the most important crystallization of mankind." Ryuichi smiled casually at the corner of his mouth, but didn't say much. But he knew it. The existence of Tianyuan is the core of the entire Jujutsu world. Jujutsu Association and Jujutsu High School's barriers are all centered on his power, and under his blessing, it becomes so perfect. But Ryuichi suddenly thought of the setting of Tianyuan in the original book. A light flashed in his eyes. "Master Tianyuan, I hope you are as great as the comics." In the depths of the uninhabited jungle, a 10 exquisite wooden house stood quietly in place. The man in black knelt nervously at the door of the wooden house. Advertisement as if waiting for something. "You said, Zenin Ryuichi, you tore up the appointment of that power? Is it?" A deep and old voice sounded slowly. The voice was indescribably desolate, as if it had come from eternity. "Bring everything back to that fascinating era, yes. Zenin Ryuichi also wants me to tell Master Tianyuan a few words." Then the man in black repeated what Ryuichi had said at that time, verbatim. Buzzing, after listening to the retelling of the man in black. Waves of pale cursive power continuously condensed into countless intertwined threads on the wooden house. As if the whole world was in that thread. Click. Layers of wave spots appeared into space. It seemed to have a bit of weird power leaked from the abyss, making everything in the forest a bit of horror. The man in black knelt on the ground without saying a word. The slightly trembling calf showed his panic at the moment. After a long while, the desolate voice sounded again. "What a Zenin Ryuichi! What a new era, the strongest! Lawlessness! Lawlessness! Master Tianyuan is also something he can easily provoke. That voice filled the forest with a bit of anger and a bit of strong killing intent, as if it were substance.
Someone will teach him, and it is good to tell young people how big the world is.
Otherwise, I really think I can do whatever I want. The voice became silent again. All the curse power around is beginning to dissipate continuously. It seems that it has never appeared before. Get out. The head of the man in black was firmly buckled on the ground, and bean-sized sweat fell on his forehead. He didn't dare to stand up until the sound rang. Arched back slowly, the etiquette was neat, as if facing some great god. Chapter 201. Advertisement Fuso, Shans. Black is like all styles, and white is like the movement of the midfield. On the blue sky, a few flowing clouds drifted freely. Zenin Ryuichi walked slowly into the park with a bunch of flowers in his hand. There was a rare sincere smile on his face. Shans, this small land, actually has the most prosperous cemetery in Fusang. No one knows who funded this cemetery, and no one has ever seen the true owner of the cemetery. It seems to appear out of thin air, suddenly becoming the only sign of Shans. Da da da, the crisp sound of footsteps is so obvious in the quiet cemetery. Ryuichi was in a tombstone, as if looking for something. After a long time, he came to a black tombstone. It was a pitch-black stone stele with no words or photos left on it. It was like a tombstone for being completed, and it was placed here in advance. Huh, Ryuichi took a long breath, then exhaled it gently, as if exhaling the breath in his chest. Looking at the black tombstone, a bit of nostalgia appeared in the moon-white eyes. He slowly sat on the edge of the stone tablet, without saying a word, put the bouquet of flowers in his hand beside him, and leaned his body gently against the edge of the stone tablet, as if at this moment he had fallen into a world with only him and the stone tablet. The world, it seems obvious, there is only him in this world. At this moment, Zenin Ryuichi exudes a temperament called loneliness. The world is leisurely, I am alone, no one to come, no one to return. How long do you still want to sleep? While talking, Zenin Ryuichi raised his hand and twisted his wrist. The loneliness disappeared instantly. The eyes that were originally somewhat inexplicable were instantly infected with a layer of murderous intent. Get out, I don't want to say it a second time. His voice is not loud, but he can clearly hear his cold voice throughout the cemetery. It was different from the tone of the past that still had a slight smile even if the killing intent was diffused. In his voice this time, the killing intent conceived could hardly be restrained. Click. ZZZ. Fourth, the murderous aura as substantial, as if it turned into a continuous flash of black thunder, and the space uttered a few overwhelmed screams. Just standing here, the breath of Zenin Ryuichi has enveloped the entire cemetery. Advertisement: the terrifying curse power on his body, like the sky, circulates endlessly. He is indeed a man who can beat Gojo, he is really strong. The voice of a somewhat neurotic man suddenly sounded. With a loud noise from Peng, a tombstone on Ryuichi's left hand exploded suddenly. The coffin hidden underground suddenly appeared on the ground. Crunch. The coffin made a sound, and one of the short men who looked like a dwarf appeared in front of Ryuichi's eyes. His face was connected by tumors one after another. In the bean-sized eyes, glittering green light shone like a hungry wolf, and the eyes were a bit surly, staring fiercely at Ryuichi's body. It seems that it is possible to pounce on it at any time. Oh, sure enough, you still came here. At this time, a trembling old woman's voice sounded. From behind the dwarf, a hunched woman walked out slowly. Her hunchback was extremely serious, as if she was bent by something. How did you find here? Ryuichi looked at the two people who appeared in front of him, and at a glance he could tell that they were jujutsu masters. His voice was very calm, but there was a bit of anger that was enough to burn everything deep inside. Although you don't know who is buried here, you will come back once a year for the past 3 years. Although your whereabouts are secret, there are always people who know. Zenin Ryuichi, a sentence you once said, I really like it. Take money from people and eliminate disasters with others, so can you pick up your head and use it? Base. Senching. Before the words were over, dozens of black shadows suddenly sprang out from behind the old woman.
If you look closely, they are ordinary human beings naked. Their whole body behavior is stiff, and there is not the slightest sage in their eyes. They are like a puppet, and they rush towards Ryuichi frantically. Ryuichi looked at the figure that was constantly rushing towards him, closed his fingers slightly, and the odd game came out under his feet. Cover everything. A burst of invisible power condenses in front of Ryuichi, as if forming an invisible barrier. Seeking flowers, keep those puppets out. Rumble. Rumble. Advertisement: the moment those puppets threw on the barrier, it was as if they had touched some kind of mechanism, and their eyes, ears, mouth and nose glowed with red light at the same time. After the body twitched, huge explosions sounded.
The tyrannical force instantly formed a terrible pressure, but it was true that even Ryuichi Yijao didn't instigate it. Old lady, you can't do this by this means.
The dwarf looked at Ryuichi unscathed and mocked the old man beside him, revealing the steel teeth that looked like a saw blade in his mouth.
There was a hint of killing intent in his eyes. Base. His feet exerted force in vain, and took advantage of the aftermath of the explosion to burst out suddenly. A black-gray curse power formed on his body, forming a thin film that was tightly attached to his body.
His figure was slightly twisted in the air, as if it might disappear at any time.
He really is a little jealous. If it were not for the cemetery, the attack by the old woman just now would have been annihilated by him in an instant.
That's good, as long as you still have weaknesses, you can kill them. The corner of the dwarf's mouth was a little smug.
Ryuichi comes here once a year. This message is a piece of memory he pieced together from the eyes of the residents of Shibuzawa.
Ever since Zenin Ryuichi was evicted from the house, he has come here every year.
There are no exceptions. Monsters of Zenin Ryuichi's level, if they didn't have the means to restrain him, even they wouldn't dare to accept this mission rashly. Even if the temptation of the door is great, it is beyond their fate. The assassination of Gojo Satoru can be said to have left a huge shadow on them.
Now facing the existence that has defeated Gojo Satoru, they even mobilize all their human and material resources to find Ryuichi's flaws for pleasure.
Zenin Ryuichi, I advise you not to move, otherwise, we can't guarantee what will happen to this cemetery. The dwarf looked at the figure in the smoke. There was a scream of triumph. Chapter 202 Advertisement on the dwarf's body. The flashing power was like the pulsating snowflakes on the old TV, and it seemed that his figure was constantly pulsing like the one on the TV. Vaguely, his body actually appeared translucent, as if stuck in another space. Base. His speed was fast, his hands clenched his fists, and in a flash, he appeared in front of Ryuichi. Yes, exactly, if you don't want to see the things you valued or destroyed, just stand obediently. The dwarf yelled triumphantly. Sure enough, once a person has a weakness, even the mighty Zenin Ryuichi, who is like a natural disaster, can only beg for mercy in front of my uncle. But, next moment, the triumphant look on the dwarf's face seemed to freeze on his face. His eyes were stiff, and the blood all over his body stopped flowing for a moment. Because the moment the smoke cleared, he saw Ryuichi's eyes. In those eyes, there seemed to be an endless abyss. Just a glance, his mind almost indulged in it in an instant. Base. A breeze passed. The dwarf feels only a bit bad. Zenin Ryuichi did not know when he appeared in front of him. You were threatening me? You were threatening me? His voice was calm and a bit boring. Click. Rumble. Out of thin air, the terrifying curse power blasted into the sky on Ryuichi's body, and under the fluctuation of this curse power, the flowing clouds dispersed. Whoosh. Whoosh whoosh. The dwarf's pupils shrank suddenly, and the flashing on his body became even faster. It's okay. It doesn't matter how strong his body is, my jujutsu is whopping, like a non-existent illusion, he is. The self-comfort of the dwarf has just come to mind. The next moment, stop abruptly, because one of Ryuichi's hands is firmly pinched on his neck. Dark curse power hovered over Ryuichi's body. Dwarf. The old woman was shocked when she saw this scene. Damn it, it seems we have to get to this point. The original plan was for Ryuichi to be in the cemetery, and to be assassinated by a dwarf who can alternate between the two worlds. But unexpectedly, as soon as the dwarf shot, Ryuichi directly choked his neck. Advertisement Ryuichi looked at the dwarf in his hand with cold eyes, and the corners of his mouth were slightly pursed. The strength in the hands is constantly increasing. The power like an ancient demon god burst out instantly. Click. The force exploded by closing the palm alone is enough to tear the space apart. Looking at the incredible dwarf in his hand, he said softly. Sometimes I also admire you guys like ants. Isn't it good to hide quietly in the sewer? Why do you have to trouble me? Old lady, hands on. The strength of Ryuichi's injury increased, but for some reason, the dwarf who could not speak when he was caught by his neck unexpectedly let out a loud shout. Next moment. In vain, bursts of mysterious power burst out from under Ryuichi's feet. Countless indescribable mysterious patterns emerged on the ground one after another.
It's like a mysterious formation. Everything is shrouded in it.
Wow. Buzzing. A sudden flash of fluorescent light appeared on the dwarf with a mysterious aura.
It seemed that Hiss would disappear into Ryuichi's hands in the next moment.
The dwarf seemed to have felt Ryuichi's terrifying power at this moment, and looked at Ryuichi triumphantly.
He. Do you think we have no deployment? Dare to come and fight against you, invincible.
This formation is handed down from the ancient Jujutsu era.
Legend, even the gods will be firmly bound by this formation.
And ordinary people in this one can't last more than 10 minutes.
I'm leaving now, enjoy it. The dwarf smiled triumphantly, as if he was out of Ryuichi's control.
Hearing the words of the dwarf, the corner of Ryuichi's mouth suddenly rose up in an unremitting arc.
It was a smile with a bit of drama. Seeing this smile, the dwarf's eyes suddenly stiffened.
An inexplicable hunch appeared in his heart. Dying? It feels like an inexplicable premonition. Next moment. Ryuichi's palm was raised abruptly. In the void, his fingers were slightly close together, and he swung a blow out of thin air. Stabbed. Advertisement click. The mysterious aura of the packager dwarf instantly seemed to shatter into countless scattered powers.
Click. The dwarf who lost that power fell directly to the ground from midair.
Ryuichi twisted his wrist again, and a deep malice appeared in his eyes. Looking at the panicked dwarf in front of him, a dead gray color radiated from Ryuichi's body. How is it possible? How can you break the rules of the formation? Absolutely impossible. How many times have we tried? The rules of formation are irreversible. The dwarf yelled frantically, unable to believe what happened. Help me, old lady. Help me. A strange smile appeared on the face of the old woman when she heard her companions shout. What are you talking about, dwarf? Didn't we say that even if we die, we won't ask for help with each other, let alone help? Haha. Wait quietly, wait to die with Zenin Ryuichi. Heard this. The dwarf felt cold, and the expression on his face quickly became gloomy. Damn it. Looking at everything in front of him, he was clearly trapped in the formation that claimed to be able to kill everything, but he seemed to be watching a play, watching the quarrel between the dwarf and the old woman. But soon, a trace of impatience appeared in his eyes. Move between fingers. So, feel the death. The breath of life is constantly weakening. The gray breath instantly drowned everything. Click. No. This is not the power that humans can have. Fall into the body of the dwarf, because he noticed that the pure death in this power. Almost instantly, his body began to continuously become transparent. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. The gray breath, with the deep despair of mankind, slowly rose. You are lucky, this is the first time I have used this power. Ryuichi said softly. A trace of despair appeared in his eyes. What kind of power is this? The dwarf who has dealt with death all the year round, at the moment when he sees the gray appears. A breath emerged one after another. The cold hairs all over his body stand upright. Chapter 203 Advertisement. This is. Seeing his body constantly beginning to become transparent, the dwarf began to panic like never before. An inexplicable trace of fear kept rippling in his heart. He tried to activate his own spell power, but no matter how hard he exerted it, he couldn't control the power in his body. Or it is. All his actions are non-existent. The odd door game under Ryuichi's feet slowly turned. He stood there like a god. Don't bother. Everything about you will no longer exist. Power, body, consciousness, and even the past will sink in death. Your life is too light, too insignificant for this world. So, it's sad, for this world, you are a dispensable person. Although he didn't understand the meaning of Ryuichi's words, the dwarf instinctively noticed something wrong. Because he found that the past hidden deep in his mind was dissipating a little bit. More importantly, he could hardly remember what he remembered. It's as if he knew that there was something very important in his 23rd memory, but he couldn't think of anything at all. He wanted to ask what Ryuichi did to him. I also want to kneel down and beg for mercy, giving up that meaningless self-esteem in order to survive. Only the strong talk about dignity, and the weak seek survival. He knew this truth since he was a child, but no matter what ideas he had, he couldn't put it into action. Because like Ryuichi said, nothing is under his control. Obviously everything is clear. When Mingming moves his body, his consciousness has already felt the movement, but his body has not reacted at all. You should feel fortunate, thinking that a scum like you will be cursed by countless people even after death.
But at this moment, with your death, your past, everything about you will disappear in everyone's memory.
You can understand that I let your root cause fall into death, and none of your actions have ever occurred, and never have been. In this world, the traces of you will be wiped out and clean. Ryuichi stroked his chin, with a slightly indescribable tone in his tone. In the moon-white eyes, the body of the dwarf that was constantly disappearing was reflected. Everything about me will eventually cease to exist? Advertisement. No one will remember me. No, I don't accept it, I don't accept it. Even death. It can't erase all of my existence.
At the moment when consciousness is wailing crazily.
Everything came to an abrupt end. Everything about him seemed to have never appeared before. The old woman who had been watching everything happening before her eyes was a little dazed. Did I just come by myself? Did you forget something? Then she looked at Zenin Ryuichi in the formation, showing a smirk, and threw out all the mixed thoughts in her heart. With the constant knot printing in his hand, the formation that trapped Ryuichi kept emerging except for more complicated and gorgeous patterns. It was as if the dwarf had never existed in her memory. Sure enough, it works. Ryuichi obviously heard the broken thoughts of the old woman, and knew in his heart that his guess had succeeded.
After cursing the island, Ryuichi holds Yada's complete death curse.
But a single killing space has huge loopholes, and it is easy to be avoided. And if Ryuichi doesn't want to pay the price of his body, he can't release the death that covers the entire sky to Yada. So he took a different approach, found another usage of death. A brand new definition of death that only he can show. When is a person's true death? The death of the body is not the true death, and the death of the consciousness is not the true death. The real death of a person is the moment when everyone has forgotten his existence.
That's a complete death. On the other hand, Ryuichi can directly unfold the odd gate game and derive a person's life.
For this world, the proportion of life is different. Compared to Ryuichi, the dwarf's life is as light as a feather, and he can adjust it at will. Originally, the odd door game changed his luck at the most, causing his luck and momentum to waver. But after Ryuichi mastered the rules of death, he tried to directly attach death to the dwarf's fate. Really? Death swallowed his life in an instant, and with the destruction of the root cause, all traces of this insignificant stone in fate were completely erased. This is the real death, in the pure sense, it doesn't exist.
Advertisement. Some exhausted deliberations are still unable to shake a corner of the world, and some people will have irreversible changes in the world within a year.
For Ryuichi, the dwarf fate is as cheap as a grass, and can be manipulated at will. Ryuichi now faces these miscellaneous fishes. It only takes a few simple clicks to make them never exist in this world. But like Gojo Satoru, Tianyuan, this kind of existence that can affect everything, it is very difficult to toggle the fate alone, and it is even more impossible to cover the rules of death. He could have erased the old woman who kept making seals in front of him at will. But the opponent has touched his bottom line at this moment. The dwarf is really lucky because he just caught up with Ryuichi and wanted to test his own ideas, so he was erased. And the guy in front of her, waiting for her, will be a punishment that is 1,000 times more terrifying than death. Zenin Ryuichi. Go to hell. The old woman knew nothing about what was happening, her hands were madly knotted. The lines are so intertwined that they cover everything around Ryuichi. Click. Under that power, cracks began to appear in large swaths of space. The chaotic atmosphere in the void kept surging. Click. The ground also appeared deep and bottomless cracks. Within that enchantment, the power like natural disasters is constantly surging. This array that claims to be able to trap the gods and kill all living beings exposed his fangs. Look at everything around. Ryuichi shook his head lightly. There was a bit of sarcasm on his face. Formation, so will he. Bass. Buzzing. Jugong, Keeman, and gossip suddenly emerged under his feet. Click. Everything in the enchantment seemed to be suspended, and then it was as if the back button was pressed, and everything began to be constantly dark. The earth healed and the space was rippling. Ryuichi looked at the shocked old woman with wide-eyed eyes, and said softly. Domain expansion. Chapter 204 Advertisement, Domain expansion. Yindu Dead Realm. Buzzing. Instantly terrifying curse power swept across the sky. It was a power that was enough to rippling the world. Almost in an instant, everything is flooded by that power. The old woman's mind was already in panic when Ryuichi erased the formation at will. Black became the main theme of everything. Eternal night is approaching, everything is dead. A round of blood moon high above, shining everything. The red light, like blood, seemed to come from the abyss of hell. It's the domain. The old woman resisted the fear in her heart, staggered and looked at everything around her. The vigilance in his eyes was almost overflowing. The field is the ultimate embodiment of a jujutsu teacher. To some extent, the expansion of the field represents the end of a battle. Da da da. Crisp footsteps sounded slowly in the eternal night. Every step seemed to be walking in the heart of the old woman, making her heart twitching uncontrollably. The formation that can trap the gods to death can't trap you, Zenin Ryuichi. Are you a human or a ghost? The old woman's eyes rolled round and round, as if she was thinking of some horrible idea. Keep his hands up behind his back, quietly Jian. However, what she didn't know was that everything in the realm would be perceived by Ryuichi. In the Yindu, everything is supreme by Ryuichi's will. This is a field with no rules, but also a field with heaven. Say what you say, I am the heaven. In this type of female worker, Ryuichi is the so-called rule itself. He looked at the old woman who was constantly trying to delay time, and a little curiosity arose in his heart. The only thing that can fight against the realm is the realm. This is the iron rule of this world. And since the old woman has no realm, even if there is any jujutsu, it will be of no avail. But knowing this, the old woman who still secretly Jian reveals something extraordinary. So Ryuichi didn't rush to kill her directly. Do you trap the gods? Haha, didn't the person who entrusted you to kill me tell you? Even the true god is in front of me. Advertisement. Dead. Even if it is as strong as Yada's fear of the final birth of all human beings, it is already very close to the existence of gods. After being seen through the weakness by Ryuichi, he still succeeded in erasing his consciousness and becoming his puppet. Not to mention a so-called formation, and Ryuichi couldn't help feeling a bit funny when he thought that the opponent wanted to trap him with a formation. The formations are made of heaven and earth, the Kimen is the king of formations, and all the formations in the world are respected by the Kimen. Feng Hu Chi Men is the strongest above all jujutsu. Using the formation in front of Ryuichi is almost equivalent. Play a big sword in front of Guangong. Give me a chance, I can tell you who wants to assassinate you, and give a permanent assignment to the Dark World. From now on, all cursed teachers will retreat when facing you. How? In order to survive, any dignity and morality, even the so-called Gold Master, cannot be betrayed. Nothing is as important as one's own life, and a trace of insidiousness flickered in the old woman's eyes. There seems to be some conspiracy. Hearing what the old woman said, Ryuichi clasped her hands together and looked at the old woman playfully. So, in order to delay time, you worked hard. As soon as she said this, the old woman instantly felt cold and sweaty. Don't be nervous, I really want to see, what kind of jujutsu were you Will you be able to crush my confidence when summoned? Take your time, if you make a mistake with such a cumbersome handprint, it will be very troublesome. Try to succeed. Does Ryuichi look at the old lady with some interest, and his tone is also very brisk, like a curious child, waiting for some fun toy. Guru. The old woman swallowed hard first, and then there was an ecstasy in her eyes. No matter how strong it is, it's just a little devil. Base. An extremely terrifying breath burst out from her hand. In the Yindu, a black vortex appeared unexpectedly. That breath is slowly radiating in the whirlpool. Ha ha ha. I don't know the impossible kid. Relying on my own talent, do I really feel that I am invincible in the world? Come out. Mashira. Click. A whole body of pitch black, spinning turbine wheel behind him, holding a huge sword, with a few angular monsters on his face, slowly walked out of the vortex. Advertisement devilish energy bursts between breaths, and thunder roars between walking. 8 swords, the gods of other worlds, Moxila. Very familiar. Right. The strongest style god of the Zenin family, Mashuluo, ha ha ha, I didn't expect it. Diaresis my Jujutsu is able to extract the root of the curse power. By extracting the power of the remains of the dead of your Zenin family, you can forcibly copy a Mashira. The old woman seemed to have a backing, looking at Ryuichi triumphantly. Oh, this is Mashira. Last time on the island of Curse, Ryuichi felt that Mashira had been lied to dissipate, so he did not see the strongest demon god in the legend last time. Don't hold on, Mashira is the strongest. Rumble. Kaka kaka. Roar. As soon as her voice fell, Ryuichi raised a finger casually and moved between her fingers. All the surrounding space exploded like a flower mirror. All broken. Mashuluo didn't even make any sound, and his body seemed to begin to collapse instantly. The black curse power faded like a tide. All this happened too fast. Even the smug look on the old woman's face hasn't faded yet.
Sorry, Zhao's, you just said. That thing, what is it? I didn't catch it too well.
The old woman's eyes were tightly locked, and her whole body began to tremble uncontrollably. Looking at Zenin Ryuichi, who is not even his own age. A deep sense of fear kept surging in her heart. The strongest demon god, but one finger kills. Don't kill. Base. Without waiting for the old woman to beg for mercy, a trace of irritation appeared in Ryuichi's eyes. He didn't even look at the old woman again. The endless darkness kept surging like a torrent, devouring the body of the old woman madly. There is destruction and fantasy in that power. Her body was constantly being torn apart, constantly healing, reincarnation, endless. There are countless beautiful illusions that have never appeared before her eyes. And the desperate rush after the phantom burst again and again. Death is the end, but more terrifying than death is the torture of eternal life. Chapter 205. Advertisement in the Yindu. All consciousness will be guided by Ryuichi's definition.
And her consciousness was magnified countless times.
She will continue to sink under the power of desire, then disappear in death, and then resurrect here under Ryuichi's denial of death. Under the torment of eternal life, her consciousness began to dissipate continuously. It seems that death has become a luxury, but it seemed that some sort of force would not allow her to die.
Repair her consciousness time and time again. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, it's no longer necessary to retreat from what you said earlier.
My staff are very efficient. Ryuichi's cold voice became the last swan song in this space. Subsequently, everything fell into that crazy darkness again. Do you live forever? You don't see the sun? In a ruin. Bones and blood became everything. A large number of weird corpses were piled up like a hill. There were hardly any wounds on their bodies. There was only one fatal injury. That's the tiny line at the throat that looks like a cow's hair.
It was only the wound that appeared after the slash approach reached a certain speed.
Above the dead mountain, Zenin Share held a bottle of beer in his hand for thousands of years. There is still a cigarette in his mouth. The hunk lifted Erlang's legs without hesitation, as if he were on the sofa in the house of everything. There is no feeling for such a bloody scene. There was even a little tune still humming in his mouth. The mood looks very good, it's like waiting for something. Zenin Shire. We have no grievances with you, why do you want to do such a thing? An angry thunder sounded, breaking the original tranquility. Base. A man who looked like a lion ran towards Sheer frantically, with 3 horizontal lines of unclear meaning on his face. She burst into tears. Weeping and jumping up to Shishan, he slapped Sheer fiercely. Rumble. His punch was so powerful that it caused bursts of air bursts. Facing the attack like reloading a car, Zenin even raised a palm unhurriedly. Advertisement. There was a faint smile on his face. Base. No one can see exactly what happened at that moment, but only knows that Sheer's figure disappeared like a ghost. The next moment it appeared on the ground. Holding a black beard in his hand, he threw it on the ground with a bit of disgust. Damn it. My beard. There was a fierce pain in the big man's jaw. But the vigilance in the eyes is a bit heavier. With his own vision, he couldn't capture Zenin's movements at all. If you can pull off your beard, you can pull out your head. This is the strongest body, Zenin's arrogance. It's sloppy, it won't appeal to children. Look at my clothes. Zenin spread out his hands as if showing off. Humph. Although he didn't understand what Shear's nonsense meant, the big man didn't dare to act rashly. After all, why did you kill them all? The big man appeared in front of Zenin Shire, under the huge body gap. Shear seemed very small, but for some reason, he looked at the man in front of him who only reached his chin. The big man actually felt that what appeared in front of him was a towering mountain that had remained unchanged for thousands of years. Why, to be honest, I actually have no reason to kill them. After all, they didn't provoke me. But, unfortunately, my boss is very dissatisfied with Master Curse, so you know. There is no way to be an employee of someone else. Shire shrugged his shoulders in a somewhat helpless tone. It seemed very reluctant. Your boss. The big man heard that Cher was actually following one person's arrangement and became someone else's employee. His mouth opened wide in shock, as if he could swallow a cow. The strongest body, the strongest assassin, and the strongest killer. He is also the most difficult person in the dark world. He never obeyed any organization, his only faith was money. In addition to completing the task, anyone who spoke to him in a commanding tone had his neck broken. Zenin is still a legend in the dark world, but this legend suddenly went silent 6 months ago. The dark world is not without the means to investigate Shear. But he didn't dare to investigate him by means. If it is not discovered, it is okay. If once discovered by this lunatic, it will definitely be an endless revenge. But, today this guy actually appeared in front of him and took a mouthful of the boss. This makes Dayan feel a little weird. He seemed to have heard something suddenly, and his hands pressed Shear's shoulders. Advertisement asked, is your boss Zenin Ryuichi? That's right. The big man suddenly thought of it. They all said that Zenin Ryuichi's House of Everything had 2 employees, but apart from the blonde kid, the other person had never met. The blonde boy is now infinitely close to the second-level Jujutsu teacher, but according to the informant's information, the boy's predecessor is countless times more powerful than him. That's right, after Zenin Share quit the dark world, he added the House of Everything. Just when his mind turned madly far away, he didn't notice. The expression on Zenin's face kept gloomy. He looked at his shoulder. The blood-stained hand of the big man stained his shoulder. You are so special, base. Oh. With the emergence of a cold light, the big man wailed like a pig. Both of his palms were directly severed by Zenin Shirshun's wrists. Fell to the ground. The blood gushes out like a fountain. Not waiting for the big man to continue to make a sound. Base. Shear carefully took out a handkerchief from his pocket and wiped the blood on his shoulder with disgust. Maybe the big man didn't even know his real cause of death was because. Click, puff, it was an old acquaintance with that big man and didn't mean to kill him.
Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running.
The big man's eyes widened, his head fell to the ground unwillingly, and he slapped a few times at random. Damn. What are you doing? I don't know if I am going to see my son wash this piece of Lao Su's clothes specially. Otherwise, the big guy would be damned the first time I met him. What Shire originally meant was to drop a few sites casually first. Before that, he had lost 4 of the Curse Division dens. In the end, he didn't see Share's movements clearly. You dare to get so dirty, what are you doing? After meeting Curse, Ryuichi was bored and told Shire to give these guys a warning. Zenin Shire had already appeared behind the big man. Originally, UB************ D didn't need to die, there was another cold light. Chapter 206 Advertisement, can I talk now? Who told you to assassinate my boss? Nanami Kento's voice is still the same as before. The ups and downs in the words can almost be ignored. It was impossible to judge his emotions from the outside. It was such a serious-faced teenager who fell in front of Master Curse who fell on the ground all the way and hummed. It's just like a ghost. He came in inexplicably, looking young, but the start was exceptionally dark. Jujutsu was even more outrageous, and he actually swept them all by himself. The boss is right. There are always some scum in this world. No matter how you give it to him, he can't hold it. Nanami Kento looked at a curse division on the ground in front of him, slowly provoking the weapon in his hand. A different kind of murderous intent appeared in his eyes. Nanami Kento is a gentle guy, and what he hides under his serious face is an extremely gentle heart. If he can, he doesn't want to disturb anyone in this world. His dream was to earn a lot of money before he was 30, and then to find a small border country and sing life to his heart's content. But I didn't think about it, I somehow became the so-called Jujutsu teacher. This is for Nanami, who has always had a strong plan for his life. It was no different than a thunder. When he was most confused, Zenin Ryuichi gave him a direction to go. People can't grasp anything because they want too much. So far, Nanami remembers that when the boss said this again, he seemed to see a god. So, for Nanami, Ryuichi is not only his boss, but also his mentor, although not the teacher who taught him jujutsu. But it is above that, a mentor to a deeper level of life. If there were no words from Zenin Ryuichi that day, Nanami wouldn't know what he was doing right now. He will never allow anyone in this world to threaten his mentor. Big brother, I really don't know what you said. No, don't. Master Curse on the ground watched Nanami slowly raise the bandaged weapon in his hand, and a very flustered expression appeared on his face. He called the teenage Nanami his eldest brother without a word. They are really just a group of curse teachers who want to have a meal. Jingle bell. Ringing. Advertisement. It was at the moment when Nanami Kento saw murder for the first time in his life. The crisp telephone ringing suddenly remembered. Pung. He thrust the weapon in his hand on the ground. The powerful force instantly submerged the weapon into the ground. Countless cracks appeared on the ground. The curse teacher next to him was so scared that he was about to pee. Boss, it's me, yes. Is the Jujutsu Association? Yes, okay. The call came, and only 2 simple sentences were spoken, although the group of curse teachers did not hear what the other side was saying. But seeing a demon like Lil Devil, he was a little bit happy when he was about to leave. Is it Jujutsu Association? So this is all. Nanami Kento hung up the phone and put the phone in his pocket. The tyrannical breath continued to radiate. He once heard from others that the president of the Jujutsu Association had a festival with his boss. Moreover, the trip to Curse Island that the boss just ended was also managed by number 1 himself. All the information is simply connected together, and the context of the matter seems to appear in front of Nanami. Crunch. He couldn't help but take another look. The Jujutsu master who fell on the ground lifted the weapon on the ground, put it behind him, and was about to leave. Just when everyone is rejoicing that this killing god is finally leaving too. Nanami Kento stopped suddenly, turned around abruptly. Looking at the various curse teachers on the ground, it seemed as if they were thinking of something. Slowly took out a stack of papers from his arms. His eyes narrowed slightly. Sorry guys, I came to the wrong place this time.
It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Yes, we are very pitiful, it's okay to fight twice.
Ha. Uncle, you can go your way, leave us alone. This group of curse division began to fight continuously. Strength is the standard to measure everything. They just want to send away the evil star Nanami Kento.
Advertisement. Seeking flowers. Who is the monster that ran out of the house?
Sorry, I can't go yet. My boss has encountered a little trouble, although I think that no one can threaten him. As an employee, I must fulfill my responsibilities. Nanami Kento looked at everyone seriously, as if trying to explain something to them. Everyone looked at each other and didn't know what this kid meant.
They looked at Nanami in confusion. Nanami let out a long sigh, her palms trembling inexplicably, and a rare hesitation appeared in her eyes.
I may need to kill this time, in order to prevent the accident that may occur in the first killing, so before the mission starts, I need to borrow your heads. 0. What? When everyone heard this, they were shocked. Did not understand Nanami's mysterious brain circuit at all. You are going to kill someone in the next task, and you are afraid that the first time you kill someone will be accidental, so you have to take me to try the knife. I don't think you should be surprised. This document records all your crimes. There are no less than 18 murders, 4 rapes, and countless illegal activities.
Whether in terms of reason or law, you should all have enough reasons to die.
Whoosh. The blood is accompanied by the brain, the red is wrapped in the yellow, and it splashes into a dead firework. Earth. The bandage-wrapped weapon in his hand lifted instantly. Base. Looking at the Jujutsu teacher's back blankly. The tip of the knife appeared on Nanami's chest almost instantly. Do you have a black dagger in your hand? It pierced Nanami's back heart fiercely. Behind him, a curse division who didn't know when to climb over suddenly jumped from the ground.
There was a smirk at the corner of his mouth. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running.
Nanami looked at the document in his hand, as if reading the minutes of today's meeting at the morning meeting. At the moment when everyone had done it, this guy succeeded. Nanami appeared behind that person in an instant. Mung bean-sized eyes carry violent violence that is not attached to it. Damn, kid, let's come out and kill people after weaning. Behind him seems to have some kind of strength blessing. Sudden. Pung. Chapter 207 Advertisement Pung. The powerful force set off a shock, and wanted to destroy everything in front of him. The headless body fell to the ground, blood flowed across. Red and yellow were all over the floor, a scene like hell. Nanami Kento's brows frowned slightly, as if he was a little uncomfortable. His hands trembled slightly. This is what it feels like to kill. I really don't like it. However, the boss said a word, killers, people will kill them. After that, the confusion in Nanami Kento's eyes disappeared instantly and returned to what it was before. Looking at the group of cursed teachers, murder emerges. Excuse me, let's borrow your head for use. His figure rushed out suddenly, like a hungry tiger choosing someone to eat, with unlimited killing intent. 470. Jujutsu Association. The highest meeting room. Number 1 sat alone in the top spot in this conference room. For some reason, Shin Zongung always had some unspeakable panic. It's like something bad is about to happen. Those guys, can you kill Zenin Ryuichi? I always think something will go wrong. Number 1 whispered to himself, still playing with the Buddha bone relic in his hand. He is a little worried. Since Zenin Ryuichi can eliminate lies and yada, his strength may have reached the level of those old guys. If it is so, with the strength of those one guys, Ryuichi can really be defeated. Kill it. It should be no problem. One thought of the jujutsu that the old woman had, the strongest demon god, the power of Mishuluo he had personally learned, even his own could not be able to fight against it in time. Buzzing. Sudden. The Buddha bone relic in his hand gave out a blue light, as if illuminating everything. The gloomy light was extremely bright when it was seen, but it was inexplicably stained with haze. Are you awake? Advertisement. Feeling the change in the relic in his hand, there was a sudden shock in number one's eyes. The cursed spirit who has entered a drowsy state should be absolutely banned inside the door. How can it be possible to reveal the power outside the door? The Buddha bone relics flew out of thin air. With a bit of inexplicable power. Wow, kaka. Above the relic, a cyan power continuously leaped out like a mist, drowning everything around it quickly. Number one gets up suddenly too. The curse power flowed rapidly throughout the body, and the surrounding space began to be dyed red. The two forces instantly bordered on each other. Can be the next moment. Another stunned scene appeared. Because he saw that his curse power was like coal falling into the furnace, being swallowed by that power instantly. And it's even more bizarre. He can feel it. His own curse power was not simply destroyed, he could still feel the presence of power, but he could not mobilize the slightest amount of that power.
It was as if something had restrained his curse power.
You are dying, human, a cold and treacherous voice rang out of nowhere in number one's head. I see the lifelessness in you. You provoked opponents who shouldn't be provoked. Now, your life is constantly getting smaller and weaker. For this world, your proportion is so different from him. On hearing this, number one frowned. Although he didn't understand the part about fate, he heard the first sentence really. Being sealed in the door. You can still have curse power. You will not borrow namelessness from being like you. Where are you sacred?
Number one asked. Hearing the words of the cursed spirit earlier, he had an answer in his heart. The old lady and the others failed, because this cursed spirit had no need to deceive themselves. This kind of lie was too easy to be exposed.
He knew that this cursed spirit's opening was bound to have a plan. Although he was anxious in his heart, his city still allowed him to look as usual, and even wanted to plan for the benefit of cursed spirit. Who am I? The cursed spirit repeated the words of number one, and the cyan curse of power was constantly surging like a tide, with a bit of calm and mysteriousness. It's too long, it's really too long. The voice of the cursed spirit is different from all the cursed spirits that number one has been in contact with over the years. He is too calm and too rational. Cursed spirit was born in curse, born under madness. Advertisement. Even the cursed spirit who lives on cunning is a lie, and there is a trace of madness that is extremely difficult to find under the sound. But now this cursed spirit is sealed in the door. Under his voice, it was indeed as calm and vast as the sea. It seemed that all the waves in the world couldn't make him feel the slightest emotion. I don't have a name, it's a useless and hypocritical thing, but thousands of years ago, people who worship me generally called me God. Another lunatic who calls himself a god.
Hearing this, number one's heart suddenly thought of the crazy laughing lie at that time, and said to herself that she was only one step away from the gods.
Time does not speak, but witnesses everything. Your life is constantly decreasing. I saw that in the upcoming future, you will be taken off by a young man in white.
He is also a trouble for me. I have seen him not contaminate the slightest years of life beyond the long river of time.
Such a different kind, damn it. Click, his voice fell, and the blue curse power instantly began to riot. The terror force like a tsunami broke out in an instant, and everything began to become a bit blurred. Number one quickly used curse power to wrap a thin film around her body. It's really not a god. Put this relic on your body, he is coming. He wants to kill you, and I want to kill him too. I don't deceive the world like a lie. Time never deceives. Do you want to work with cursed spirit again? The cyan curse power kept converging. The cursed spirit's voice suddenly became a little irritable. Seeing everything around him was constantly distorting and deforming, I was even more surprised. Slowly flew towards number one. Number one grabbed the relic in his hand, with mixed flavors in his eyes. Inside the door. There is enough power to annihilate everything. Within this Buddha bone relic, what kind of cursed spirit is actually sealed? A trace of hostility appeared in his eyes. Woo 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 woo. We killed him together. How? Oh shit. Zenin Ryuichi, don't push me. Is it? Relic spins in the air a few times. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Thinking of Ryuichi's god-like figure, number one's teeth clenched involuntarily. Chapter 208 Advertisement. The darkest conference room. The power that had been surging continuously just now dissipated. There was a deep killing intent in number one's eyes. The corners of his mouth were squeezed, like a wounded lone wolf. The whole body spell power fluctuation has spread to the extreme. Put the Buddha bone relic in his chest pocket. At this moment, he has no choice. As early as when he was looking for those cursed teachers, he had already prepared to confront Ryuichi head-on. After all, those guys who take money to do things don't know much about humanity. His identity is revealed, but it is not a matter of time. Da 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 da. In the darkness, a footstep sounded slowly outside the door. The voice kept ringing in number one's heart with a somewhat inexplicable rhythm. Crunch. The door was slowly opened, and Zenin Ryuichi appeared in front of number one with a smile. She was dressed in white like snow, her black hair was like ink, and her moon-white eyes had a somewhat unclear look. Number one clearly saw it. Outside the gate, the guards fell to the ground in random directions. A middle-aged man in a black suit squatted on a guard, drinking beer quietly. On the other side, a serious teenager in a white suit was holding a stack of documents as if he was recording something. Zenin Ryuichi. Breaking into the Jujutsu Association privately, what do you want? The Jujutsu Association is a joint establishment of the Jujutsu community and the Fuso government. It represents the absolute authority of the Jujutsu community. Your behavior is an insult to all Jujutsu teachers. Number one screamed at Ryuichi. At this time, he actually wanted to threaten Ryuichi in the name of the Jujutsu Association and the government. Hearing this, Ryuichi smiled disdainfully at the corner of his mouth. He didn't rush to do it, randomly pulled a seat behind him and sat on it. It seems that the Jujutsu Association, which represents the highest authority, is like his back garden.
He is the master of this. Or, when Zenin Ryuichi appeared here, he had become the only master here. Mr. President, when I met last time, I seemed to say that what I hate the most is the person who caused me trouble.
Hey, I just want to be a small boss quietly. Why'd I have to run around? It's very troublesome. Ryuichi seemed to be complaining with number one, with a somewhat helpless tone, as if he had some great distress about number one's behavior. I don't understand what you are talking about. It is of course impossible for number one to admit that he had commissioned the Curse Division to assassinate Ryuichi. If you admit it, then even those who are immortal want to intervene in this matter, they will not be able to proceed. And so must hook Curse's hat on his head. The reputation of number one's future is completely abolished.
It doesn't matter whether you admit it or not, I don't care.
Advertisement, I'm just here to inform you, all. Indebted. Base. As soon as the voice fell, Ryuichi's figure disappeared from the seat instantly. Number one's eyes shrank suddenly, and he didn't even see Ryuichi's movement just now. But decades of combat experience gave him a kind of instinct instinctively. His hands quickly pressed on the table, a jump instantly away from the desk. Next moment, click, boom, a huge explosion sounded. The table exploded. A figure slowly emerged on the desktop. Ryuichi stepped on the trial table that ruled the Jujutsu incident. Click. The feed exerted force again. Click. This long trial table, which is known to have the strength of the cursed tool of the first class, instantly appeared numerous cracks, like a spiderweb, intertwined and connected together. Rumble. Pong. At next moment, the table shattered in an instant. Turned into a ball of fly ash. Seeing this scene before him, a layer of fine sweat appeared on number one's forehead. Too strong. The current Zenin Ryuichi, whether it is physical or cursive, is several times stronger than when he was at Rukawa's house. Just relying on physical strength, you can smash the first level cursed tool at will.
This kind of power is simply unbelievable. The speed is good, but not enough.
Ryuichi gave number one a playfully. Murder in the eyes emerged. His toes twitched the ground randomly. The azure power constantly aroused a certain mysterious aura on the ground.
The 9 palaces, gossip, slowly emerge. Tai Chi, yin and yang appear one by one.
A strange game that covered the entire room quietly unfolded. At the moment when the odd door game opened, inside the Buddha bone relic, a human figure suppressed by countless scriptures and proverbs suddenly opened his eyes. Advertisement in his eyes are 2 pitch-black compasses. With his eyes opened, the countless seals in the door began to surge wildly. The sound of chanting of the scriptures repeated, and the proverbs swayed. It seems that he wants to close his eyes again. Enough. Hum. The figure uttered 2 words slowly, for an instant. Everything around it seemed to be suspended. The scriptures fell apart and the proverbs shattered. Bang bang bang. It's the breath of destiny. You can actually move destiny. Why is that power controlled by humans? He seemed to have passed the endless seal. I caught a glimpse of the power at Ryuichi's feet that could reverse everything. There was an indeterminate light flashing in his eyes. Old monk, I promised you that after you die, I am willing to be sealed until the next person who can shake fate appears. Now I'm waiting, I'm leaving. A gleam of light began to appear in the endless darkness. Figures constantly appeared under the dim light. That is a compassionate face. He looks very much like a bodhisattva in a temple. His eyes closed slightly, and the corners of his mouth were smiling. It is like an ancient Buddha, but also like a bodhisattva. But I don't know why. Looking at his face, there is always a sense of trance. That kind of feeling is as strange as time is temporarily set. Looking at him, time seems to have lost its meaning. A scripture sounded abruptly. His eyebrows wrinkled lightly, then opened again, with a relief on his face. Need my help? He said softly. The voice sounded strangely in the heart of number one. One felt Ryuichi's infinite curse power like a god at this moment. The muscles of the whole body are tightened, and the curse power continues to condense in the whole body. He hesitated in his heart when he heard what the cursed spirit said. He is definitely not Ryuichi's opponent now, he can be sure of that. The reason why he hesitated was not because of the dignity protection of the Jujutsu teacher, but because he had already sent a signal to the group of elders. If I join hands with Cursed Spirit now, if those guys really come, it will only be him who will be eliminated. Suddenly, number 1 was caught in a dilemma. Chapter 209. Advertisement. Huhuhu, the force of the tyrannical curse was burning like a flame. In the meeting room, the two total packages have completely different magic powers, crazily intertwined. But a discerning person can see it right away. The terrifying curse power of Zenin Ryuichi is far enough to crush number 1 in terms of quality and quantity. It's like a cat catching a mouse. Don't kill, but play. Do you really want to get this far? Cold sweat came up all over number 1's body. I was at the center of the Jujutsu Association, but Zenin Ryuichi, the group of people, broke in directly. The rules of the Jujutsu world were not taken into consideration at all. Will die. If you do it with Zenin Ryuichi, you will definitely die. This thought appeared in his heart the moment Ryuichi appeared before his eyes. The number 1 acting president who was once not K, is now in such a situation. What are you waiting for, human? As long as you are willing to accept my gift, you have a chance to kill him. And this is your only chance, I can tell you this. Zenin Ryuichi's existence is beyond the limit you can imagine. Unless the old ghosts in your human society are willing to take action, you will undoubtedly die today. I have seen it, your dead image. The voice of Cursed Spirit kept ringing in number 1's mind. The sound was clean and thorough, without the slightest temptation. But it is sincere every word. It feels very strange, just like the moment a person treats you sincerely, you will definitely feel that kind of trust from the bottom of your heart.
At this moment, this number 1, who has always yearned for power and power, has actually raised this trust in his heart after a long absence.
Is it? Really want it? Could it be? Number 1 murmured softly. Ryuichi seems to have found something interesting. He looked at number 1 with a bit of drama in his eyes. There was a bit of cunning in the pair of moon-white eyes. His fingers lifted slightly. The odd door game at the foot turned quietly. Suddenly, a breath that connects heaven and earth exploded.
Ryuichi stood in it, like a god. When the blue light emerged, it was continuously connected around his body.
His whole body seemed to be tangled by stars. Advertisement.
It's like walking with the sun and the moon at hand.
Among the strange doors, I'm honored. Time, space, all of these things began to rippling indescribably. Mr. President, you'd better listen to him. While the number 1 was still struggling, Ryuichi did say with some playfulness. And the face of number 1 who heard this was stiff at the time.
Even the cursed spirit who was still trapped in the door was also stunned.
Obviously, the power of his own curse should have crossed the long river of dimensions and appeared directly in number 1's mind.
Even the guy who was tyrannical in the perception of curse power can't know his own existence.
3 seconds, Ryuichi raised 3 fingers and looked at number 1 blankly. There was a bit of killing intent in the voice. You have 3 seconds to consider whether to accept that guy's power, and my patience can wait up to 3 seconds. 3, 2. Ryuichi's unhurried voice fell in the ear of number 1, and it was like a reminder of the god of death, constantly ringing the clock of death. It's too late to choose. I accept your power. Any price is good, I accept. Base. 1. The moment Ryuichi's voice fell, a terrifying force burst out all over his body. It disappeared in front of number 1 instantly like a ghost. Base. Buzzing. When the space was rippling, he emerged from the void. The hands are like stars circulating. Qianzi Xing. Almost within a second, an endless burst of brilliance appeared instantaneously. It seems that under this punch, the world repeats and the galaxy flows backwards. Rumble. Click. The power of horror is mixed with endless brilliance, destroying everything. It's like a hurricane. Click. Number 1's body was instantly swallowed by this power. Rumble. Ryuichi made this punch without a smile on his face, but rather a little bit of interest. It seems that under the galaxy, something is about to break everything. Make a comeback in general. Advertisement. Click. There are no gorgeous jujutsu fluctuations, no exaggerated explosions. A blue aura slowly poured out from under the galaxy. Almost instantaneously, the galaxy that can swallow everything is actually eaten away by this power bit by bit. Next moment, that power quickly annihilated the galaxy, and the figure of number 1 reappeared in front of Ryuichi's eyes. But now, his image has changed drastically. The size of number 1, which was originally short, has now started to grow taller. Its yellow skin fell like mud and sand, revealing baby-like skin, and her silver hair seemed to have been rendered in ink and turned into black water. An old man in his 70s or 80s turned into a young man in his early 20s in a blink of an eye. The muddy eyes of those muddy and sandy eyes have also become black and white like a newborn. Diaresis, welcome, come to the new world. Ryuichi looked at the number 1 in front of him who had regained his youth. Spread his hands, as if showing something. With a rare vigilance in his eyes, the corners of his mouth pursed, as if he had seen something dangerous. The tone is indeed still so lazy and casual. How does it feel to be back in this world after 1,000 years? Cursed Spirit, hearing Ryuichi's words, number 1, twisted his neck. A whole 1,500 years, he still got rid of Yada's shadow and became a complete self, but it's a pity. Death has an end in front of time. As for the bondage, your bondage is more than this. Looking at everything outside the window with blurred eyes, it seemed a bit strange. In order to improve the progress of Feng Hu Chi Men, Ryuichi once again set constraints, and wanted to deepen his own perception by using only Feng Hu Chi Men. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. To be precise, Yada lied. The cyan cursing power was constantly flowing around the corner of his eyes, as if countless rebirths were contained in it. To be precise, it is 1,500 years. Number 1's voice paused for a while, then looked at Ryuichi meaningfully and said, "With so many restraints on your back, you can still be so strong. Even in my age, you are enough to be J's existence.
If it weren't for me to have a bondage now, I could still let you meet Yada."
He sat cross-legged on the ground quietly, looking up and down Ryuichi.
In the pair of black and white eyes, there are a little bit of vicissitudes and long distance indescribable. The voice of number 1 has also undergone a huge change. Like the previous cursed spirit, it is peaceful and calming. Ms. Zhao, are you only lion Yada? Chapter 210. Advertisement. What is that? Ryuichi asked curiously. Number 1 slowly raised a finger, and between the fingers, a cyan curse was constantly surging. Between Zumi. Turn the virtual into reality. That power actually condensed into a beautiful jade interwoven with blue and blue. Exudes a different kind of color. Jade is the spirit of heaven and earth, and Ju is the king of jade. When the ruling class first appeared in the world, jade was a symbol of royal power, and Ju was the existence above all jade. Your Jujutsu master likes to call the strongest group of people Ja. Number 1, looking at Ryuichi, there was a bit of inexplicable appreciation in his eyes. Then the palm slammed hard. He smashed the seemingly invaluable piece of beautiful jade. Wow, like mud and sand, letting the precious chalcedony slip from his hands indifferently. I really learned it. Feng Hu Chi Men turned slowly under Ryuichi's feet. Between the rooms, time and space are already in his hands. Seriously, your jujutsu is too dangerous. You are too dangerous for this world. Whether it is time or space, it should be inaccessible to humans. But your jujutsu can actually reverse all this. While speaking, number 1 slowly stood up from the ground. A breath that seemed to come from the ancients continued to radiate from his body. There was a bit of indescribable light in those black and white eyes. He obviously didn't look at Ryuichi, but Ryuichi had a strange feeling, as if countless hours were interrupted. A pair of eyes were facing him. Time. This power is time. I felt that there was a slight shock in the rules of this strange time. Ryuichi came to a conclusion right away. At this moment, the cursed spirit attached to number 1 is in control of the time. What is the most terrible thing in this world? Death represents the end of everything, lies symbolizes the haze of the world, and truth represents the injustice of life. These are all fears over human emotions. But there is a kind of fear far beyond all concepts. Even curse and the people who hate him may not find themselves hating it in their lifetime. It will always exist by our side, will it never leave, it will never pass away, and it will never be used. Because that is one of the biggest rules in this world. Time. Time never belongs to anyone, or that anyone is just an appendage of time. For this world and time, the emergence of humans may be just an accident. Advertisement. And time never speaks. The human curse of time exists in the deepest part of the subconscious all the time. Time flies too slowly, time flies too fast. These trivial complaints, these seemingly inconspicuous little curse. Curse has never been born, because whether it is the sorrow of humans praying for the war to be faster in the warring states period, or the curse of the flow of time after the huge social pressure, will only flow in one direction in the end. That is the only time. The only God. Ryuichi thought of reading various wild history in order to improve the progress of Dispatch of Detained Spirits. Looking at the blue light on number 1, it looked like a compassionate bodhisattva. A legend kept coming up in my mind. During the Warring States period, not long after the general's life, a bodhisattva fell from the sky, without saying a word, to save the general's life. The war that was supposed to have stopped because of the general's death has revived disputes. And that bodhisattva was born on the ground, and wherever he goes, there is no death. No sword can hurt its roots. Some people call it gods and erect statues of gods. It is said that believers are immortal, and it is also called Sacrifice Bodhi. Sacrifice Bodhi. Ryuichi turned a sharp glow and flashed past, as if he could see through the identity of number 1. And the face of number 1 still has that compassionate image. Under the light of alternating blue and blue, it is like a true Buddha. Thousands of years ago, someone called me like this. It doesn't matter how you like to call it. The world calls me too many. Bodhisattvas, Buddhas, gods, such meaningless things, just feel free. Number 1 shook his head indifferently. He had no interest in the name given to him by human beings. So, now, this body is yours. Ryuichi stretched a lot, as if he had lost patience. Between the toes jog. The odd door turned leisurely. There was a ripple in the space. His figure suddenly disappeared. Base. The mind wandering started instantly. Advertisement. Next moment, he has already appeared in front of number 1. The fist was raised high, and the powerful one force made everything around him slightly twisted and deformed. As the power surged, the black thunder continued to roar in the void. Rumble. I promised him that you will return your body to him after you die. The voice of number 1 is still so flat. But the power in his hand surged like a volcanic eruption. In his hand, it seemed as if endless storms bred in it, and it seemed as if the rivers of the world gathered together. It was a kind of irritability that annihilated everything, and it was also a fear that swallowed everything. Click. Rumble. The moment the two fists hit each other, the space uttered an overwhelmed scream, like a broken mirror, constantly bursting out of the gap like a silk thread. Buzzing. For the first time, Ryuichi felt the power that could collide head-on with him. The laziness in the eyes disappeared quickly. It was replaced by a look of excitement. He has been bored for too long. Ryuichi, who has mastered 4 stunts, is too strong. Being strong is a supreme pursuit in the eyes of the weak, but the strongest is a boundless curse. Ryuichi thought he would be bored like this forever. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. It wasn't until Ryuichi broke his invincible that he let him go. 10 years later, perhaps Gojo Satoru, who has fully grown up, still has a chance to make Ryuichi feel threatened. Even death itself on the Curse Island. But the current Gojo Satoru is far from enough. However, the punch that hit him by number 1 just now made him understand. It is difficult for him to have the slightest sense of war in his heart. And now, game time is up. There was a smile at the corner of his mouth, and his eyes condensed slightly. Own, Divine Armament 100 Refinements, 6 Immortal Thief Treasury, Dispatch of Detained Spirits, Fenghuchi Men Ryuichi. Even with the terrifying power that can make everything return to nothingness. Have fun by yourself. Try to please me. God has been deeply trapped in invincible curse. This kind of curse has always been around Gojo Satoru. With his current control, he could not pose any threat to Ryuichi. Chapter 211. Advertisement. Rumble. The power in Ryuichi's hands exploded again, and the tyrannical body brought by 6 Immortal Thief Treasury, coupled with the dry character bonus in Shang Kimen. Let his power surge in a frenzy. Empty. Boom. 1. There was a clear noise in the space. Click. The black thunder in the void shook everything, and the mighty power like a tribulation exploded in an instant. Click. There was a crisp sound from arm number 1. It's like a broken bone. Pong. Bang bang bang. One punch is slow, one punch is slow. Weakness makes life difficult. Ryuichi burst out suddenly, leaving the cursed spirit in one's body too late to react. He miscalculated Ryuichi's strength, thinking that the body he was controlling was enough to match it. However, at this moment he found himself wrong. And it's ridiculously wrong. Pong. 470. Click. A punch with terrifying power smashed the arm of number 1 to smash. In the void, his arm is like a biscuit under a hydraulic device. Like a powder, a sharp light burst into Ryuichi's eyes. Turn around with a punch, and kick up with a kick between alternate statures. Pick directly on the chin of number 1. Pong. Number 1's body flew out heavily. It's like a meteor. It hit the wall fiercely. A human-shaped hole appeared in the cement-mixed wall in an instant. From Ryuichi shot to number 1 flying. The whole process did not exceed 3 seconds. Don't tell me, this is what you can do. Ryuichi smiled slightly at the corner of his mouth and looked at the hole in the wall like electricity. He could perceive it, although number 1's body was greatly injured. But the power lodged in him is still as tyrannical as it is. Really? Ryuichi's voice did not fall. Waves of blue power emerged from the wall like a tide. Click. A pair of palms, transformed from pure curse power, snapped against the wall. Advertisement. The palm was slightly hard. Countless intertwined cobweb-like cracks appeared on the wall. Sorry, this body is too fragile, so I can only modify his body. I think you should mind. Pong. Number 1 leapt out of the wall abruptly. The speed is so fast that even Ryuichi can only see a stream of light in his eyes. Whoosh. Base. His figure was in the air, like a charge, with some terrible power condensed. I don't care. I just hope you don't let him die too fast. You are overdrawing his time. Ryuichi, at a glance, realized that the origin of number 1's body was disappearing at an extremely fast speed. Any power comes at a price. He wants to kill Ryuichi, even cooperating with Cursed Spirit, but the price is heavier than he can imagine. I promised him to help him kill you, but the price is years. So, Zenin Ryuichi, you are qualified to be remembered by me. This is your honor. With honor, go to death in peace. Base. As he spoke, number 1 was like an evil Ryuichi, swooping toward Ryuichi in the air. At this moment, his arms had completely become a killing weapon condensed with curse power. This trick is anthropologically studied by me and you, and it's called cross kill. Number 1 crossed his arms, and his power was completely concentrated at the intersection of the arms. The force of terror even drew the surrounding air dry in an instant. Everything around began to crack continuously. Even the space appears a little bit of black nothingness. Facing this menacing blow, Ryuichi didn't have the slightest panic in his eyes, he pinched the formula with one hand. The mysterious air keeps surging. The sage makes heaven and earth, Tai Chi determines the universe, and the power of the earth should carry everything infinitely. Among Feng Chi men, although Ryuichi has always blessed the body with the Kionzi Ju, in fact, it has always been this earth of virtue that has the greatest power bonus. Kun word Bu Joshin. The odd door turned slowly. The gossip of the week is like the stars in the sky, endless. Between the broken shadows of the stars, it seemed as if a mountain that reached the sky completely appeared, and endless raging waves bombarded the mountain. But it can't shake it at all. The ghost slowly fell onto Ryuichi's arm. Base. On Ryuichi's arm, it seemed to carry the power from the endless loneliness. Blatantly rushed to the one that rushed to that one. Null. Empty. The moment when the two collided together. The tyrannical force instantly shattered the surrounding walls. Click. Advertisement. Click. Click. The roof of the entire highest conference room was directly shattered by the aftermath of the two people's power. What the hell is on number one? It can actually fight back and forth with the boss. Nanami Kento put on goggles. Looking serious at what happened. If not seeing it with your own eyes, who can believe that the terrifying power in front of him, which looks like a tribulation, is actually just a collision between the flesh? The boss's strength is unfathomable. Nanami was very clear about this, but what he didn't expect was that what was hidden in number one's body could physically resist his boss. Don't worry, Ryuichi will win. Zenin Shire was calm, with a cigarette in his mouth, sitting on top of several jujutsu masters who had been knocked out. Are you so confident in your boss? Nanami Kento looked at Shire, the trace of anxiety in his heart was also affected by Shire, and passed away quietly. Of course, that guy is my boss. I'm the boss of Fuheshire, of course, invincible. Senior, aren't you from Zenin's family? Quote. Just between the two talking. The figures of Ryuichi and number one have been intertwined hundreds of times in the void. The force of terror sweeps everything like a catastrophe. Base. As the two punched each other, the two sides withdrew one step at the same time with great understanding. A white robe is proud of snow. One person's Buddha light is overwhelming. Clearly, two completely different auras rose to the sky again. A blue breath seems to be able to purify everything. A azure light seems to be able to master all beings. The two forces are constantly bombarding each other in the air. Like two beasts walking out of the wild. With the sky as the battlefield, he constantly wants to swallow the opponent. Click. Rumble. The two watched each other quietly, but the sky had become a battlefield. Rumble. Click. That is. Nanami Kento looked at the scene in front of him, and opened his mouth suddenly, unable to believe his eyes. The sky is cracked. Chapter 212. Advertisement. In the sky of Hibiscus, the moon and stars are scarce. A round of bright moon hung above the sky. And just in the next moment, two horrible auras collided crazily in the sky. Next moment. Click. Empty. Those two powers are like two demons tearing everything apart. Click. Above the sky, a huge crack suddenly appeared. Divide this vast sky into two. One side of the sky is cloudless, and stars are emerging. One side of the sky, dark clouds, countless thunder hidden in it. What's wrong? I'll go, take a snapshot. Did you see it? The sky is cracked. It's not a monster. In the high-pressure city of Fuzhang, even if it is already deep at this moment, there are still countless overtime workers who have just finished their hard day. Walking on the street, looking at the huge crack in the sky, let out a cry of exclamation. Some hurriedly called their friends, while others took photos of the scene with their mobile phones. That's it. Jujutsu teacher meets. The position 23 is the Jujutsu Association. Who would dare to go there to make trouble? You must stop it as soon as possible. The last black and white ghost incident has not been resolved. Fuzhang must not have a large-scale negative emotional outbreak again. An inspector from Jujutsu Academy discovered this scene and ran to Jujutsu Academy quickly. An attack that is enough to tear the sky apart, this kind of Jujutsu master is not something he can resist. It is a serious matter to return to Jujutsu Academy to ask for assistance. The fragile hearts of the people can no longer withstand the second shock. In order to successfully converge, Ryuichi's black and white impermanence put on the big show, which has already given the Jujutsu community a lot of shadow over this sudden public event. Not long after this, the sky was torn apart. This kind of thing must be suppressed quickly. Inside Jujutsu Academy, Gojo Satoru lay on the rocking chair, swaying and uncomfortable. Holding a can of Coke in his hand. Enjoying my leisure time very leisurely. Under the tree on the side, Sha Yuji leaned her body against the root of the tree. He also held a can of Coke in his hand. Feel free to pour into your mouth. It's easiest to stay in school. Advertisement. I almost forgot, I'm still a good first grade student. Gojo said jokingly. Fortunately, Jujutsu Academy doesn't take maths or something. Oh, I forgot that even if you take the exam, you can do everything. Sha Yuji squinted his eyes, as if remembering, and shook his head helplessly. This old man of his own is a well-deserved genius. No matter what it is, you can learn as long as you read it once. But I don't know if it is my own illusion. Sha Yuji always felt that after this trip to Curse Island was over, Gojo has become a bit different from before. The previous Gojo Satoru was like a sharp blade out of its sheath. Although it was not bloodied, it was chilling. And the current Gojo Satoru is like a great knife in the scabbard. Although it is not sharp, the day it is unsheathed, the world must be shocked. You seem to be different. Oh, have I? Is it that I have become more handsome? Hey, there is no way. Too popular, it is also a sin. Excellence really troubles me too much. Gojo Satoru is still so frivolous, with a flamboyant look. Hee hee. Seeing him like this, Sha Yuji didn't say much, just smiled. After a long while, Gojo Satoru slowly got up from the rocking chair. Sha Yu, I found my goal. I always thought that if I didn't do anything, I could walk in front of everyone. But I recently discovered that there is someone who, even if I run with boiling water, is always a step slower than him. Gojo looked at the long sky, and in front of him, Zenin Ryuichi's lazy figure slowly appeared in front of him. That sentence, you are slow again this time. Until now, it has been remembered by Gojo. There was a rare excitement on his face. The voice is not as cold as it used to be. Instead, it brought a bit of fanaticism. It's Zenin Ryuichi. Seeing his old friend in this state, Sha Yuji suddenly thought of being in the lane that day. Ryuichi is aloof like a god. A hint of bitterness rose from the corner of his mouth. Sorry, Gojo, I still can't keep up with you. Maybe Gojo Satoru didn't even realize that because of Ryuichi's appearance, he walked much faster than before, too much. Sha Yuji who could barely stand side by side with him once. Now I can only see the back of him walking away. Both are special grades, and there is indeed a big gap in strength. Advertisement. Ha ha ha. Of course, that guy is very strong. Sha Yu. Let's work hard together, and can't make him proud for too long. Although Gojo is powerful and superior in IQ, its EQ is indeed outrageously low. He didn't feel the strangeness of his partner at all. A jump came to Sha Yuji's side. He held Sha Yu's shoulders. How about it? We are the strongest. Yes, we are the strongest. Sha Yu agreed with Gojo's words with a smile. He never seemed to oppose anything Gojo did. Even when he first came to Jujutsu Academy and didn't know his own strength at all, he also grew up among the strongest in Gojo. My friend wants me to be the strongest, standing by his side, of course I can't let him down. This was Sha Yu's thinking at the time. But just now. Suddenly a suspicion arose in his heart. Am I really following them? Have you followed two such terrifying monsters? He didn't even notice, a trace of haze was slowly emerging in his heart. Click. Suddenly two tyrannical auras drew the attention of 1 and 2 to the past. The two glanced at the source of the breath. Do you know who it is? And Sha Yu's feet did not know when a creature like a jellyfish appeared out of thin air. That direction is Jujutsu Association. Base. Sha Yu looked at the reverse of the crack on the sky. Take him to fly continuously. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Gojo disappeared in front of Sha Yu's eyes like a stream of light. Next moment. Between talking. Looking at Gojo Satoru, who may have arrived at the destination. Am I really following? The jellyfish exploded at an astonishing speed, with endless black energy, and quickly disappeared into the academy. He shook his head slightly. Who can anyone else? Of course it is that guy. Following Sha Yu, let's go to a good show. The two looked at each other, and both saw the look in each other's eyes. Gojo stood up from the ground, cursing power constantly emerging under his feet. I don't even know the account, this guy seems to be really angry. Chapter 213. Advertisement. Not long after Sha Yu and Gojo left. Layers of ripples appeared in the space. A sexy beauty in tights slowly walked out of the darkness. She fluttered her long golden hair casually, revealing a few different styles. Looking at the back of Gojo and Sha Yuji leaving. There was a faint smile on the corner of his mouth. Sha Yuji, sooner or later you will find that you can't stand with them at all. You are indeed good, but you were born in the same age as them. It is your sorrow. You are destined to live only by looking at their backs. No, or, to be born in the same era with them is the sorrow of this era, and indeed the luck of this world. This woman is the only female jujutsu teacher among the 3 super jujutsu teachers, 99 Yuki. There was an inexplicable haze in her eyes. Muttered to himself. Zenin Ryuichi is too strong. Gojo Satoru is too scary, only you are the best choice. Don't blame me, Sha Yu, don't blame me. ... The white flame was burning strangely. Everything around is constantly glowing with a ghostly spirit. Deep in the dark jungle. It is a huge palace. In the hall. There are countless wooden partitions except one small space after another. That guy number 1 sent us an application for help. What do you think? The figure in the highest place said slowly. His voice broke through the palace, as if it never changed forever. It was flashed by a bright light. Ahem, I don't think it is necessary, the killers are very killers, the number one guys are really too much. Among the red partitions, an old voice took the lead in expressing what he meant. But soon, there was a rebuttal voice. Old Zenin, you can't protect your shortcomings like this because the person who did it is the heir of your family. In Tokyo, you can't do it without authorization. This is the rule. The matter of number one, we have our own decision, and it is not yet a turn for a little devil who has no hair to do it. The person speaking is generous and powerful, full of energy, and the words seem to flash with thunder. Haha, Miyamoto, you be asterisk 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 D, don't you see that 2 days a knife was pulled out of Ryuichi's hand, you are dissatisfied. I tell you, you have to hold back even if you are dissatisfied. For those who have the ability to use one sword in 2 days, it is the rule set by Senior Musashi. If it weren't for Musashi-sama's sake, you old thing wouldn't even have the qualifications to come in here. Advertisement. Zenin's family. Don't go too far. Rumble. A burst of incomparably sharp curse power burst out instantly. For an instant, it seemed as if a peerless sword came out of its sheath. Kill everything. Haha. Inside the mahogany, the old man let out a sneer. Click. A black whirlpool appeared faintly. Among them, there is a big black hand. Buckled on the edge of the vortex, as if a demon from hell, about to break the seal. The tyrannical force enveloped the entire palace. Do you want to try my Miyamoto knife? It's not that Lao Su looks down on you. The sword saint is an old man who is invincible throughout his life. With a mortal body, he is a model of our generation. And you guys, a bunch of trash. Can't even pull the knife out. Haha, your house was pulled out, but if I remember correctly, people looked at you Zenin's house and disgusted. Miyamoto's family business is not subdued, but directly ridiculed. Seeing that the anger between the two is getting bigger and bigger. The ancient existences in the other dense partitions all seem to be watching a play. There are even a few close ones that have already started to bet on which one is stronger than the Zenin family or the Miyamoto family. Enough. The head of the figure suddenly let out an angry roar. Rumble. Click. A terrifying force that seemed to come from the endless abyss burst out in an instant. With that figure as the center, tyrannical powers swept everything. Click. Pung. Whether it's the black whirlpool of Zenin's family or Miyamoto's slasher. All shattered under this breath. Don't forget your identities. Before Tianyuan wakes up, we are the only ones in the Jujutsu world. I'm reminding you that after entering the mantra hall, you will no longer be pure Jujutsu teachers, and you will also abandon your so-called family honor. We are the trial, the ruling, and the final bottom line and barrier in the Jujutsu world. In this case, I don't want to say it a second time. There was indescribable majesty in the man's voice. It's like an emperor who rules the world. Wherever his gaze passed, none of these ancient existences that had been hidden behind the Jujutsu world for many years dared to look at them. Advertisement. Seeing that the scene in front of him met his expectations. He nodded in satisfaction. Continue to say. Diaresis the same problem. Zenin Ryuichi attacked the Jujutsu Association and violated the truce agreement. Everyone have any thoughts? The Zenin family stopped talking. But, the turbid eyes hidden behind the partitions drew across the partitions one by one. Although it hasn't been stated clearly, the threat is already out there. The pale flame is still burning. There was a dead silence in the palace. If the people who killed the Jujutsu Association were ordinary people, there would have been nothing in this meeting for a long time. But, Zenin Ryuichi's strength, as well as the influence of the rogue family from his birth. Let this matter without controversy. It became a bit tricky for a while. It is said that after joining the mantra hall, the supreme power that specifies the rules of the Jujutsu world, you must abandon the family feelings. But as long as it is a person, there are a few who can give up their beliefs. Therefore, even if the Zenin family does not say anything in your heart, you do not want to offend the Zenin family. As Zhao Hao, after all, it's not that everyone is like the Miyamoto family. The family has been retired for 100 years. That kid, what did you do that surprised you so much? A crisp voice resounded in everyone's hearts. Immediately send an action team to stop those two guys. That kid, off. That kid tore the sky apart. Barefoot cannot be afraid to wear shoes, they can't. Suddenly the man abruptly stood up from his chair, a touch of shock and irritation appeared in his eyes. The Zenin family still cared about their blood, and asked. The person's voice paused slightly, and then said solemnly. Shocking. Several black shadows rushed out from the palace quickly. Going right now. The voice fell. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Looking at the silent palace. Pung. The man at the highest point tapped his fingers on the table a few times at random. Chapter 214. Advertisement. What a mighty force this is. Nanami Kento looked at everything in front of him, and couldn't help but let out an exclamation in his heart. How terrifying is the power that can tear even the sky. Don't be surprised. The trouble will be big next. She was not shocked by the torn firmament. Instead, he looked at the two in the battlefield with solemn expression. The cynical smile faded a little. Do you use the account? Shire glanced at Nanami. Isn't the account considered a high-level jujutsu? You can even use the account to cover everything as long as you have this curse power. The original purpose was to prevent the curse of power from leaking out when the jujutsu master removes the cursed spirit, or the appearance of the cursed spirit is seen by ordinary people, thereby breeding new fears, and creating a power that can block ordinary people's vision. Generally speaking, a jujutsu teacher with such strength as Nanami Kento, for such a low-level jujutsu, must be handy. Sorry, senior, although I know about posting, the boss and you have never used it. I thought it was the style of the House of Everything, so I didn't learn it. Nanami Kento replied to Shire in a tone that answered the teacher's question. Quote. Hearing this answer, several black lines appeared unconsciously on Shire's forehead. Oh shit, don't you want to use the account as Lao Su? There is no magic power in Lao Su's body. As for the boss, which guy is not a one-shot killer, he doesn't need to be accounted for. Forget it, let's learn later. The trouble is so great now, it's impossible for those old immortals to pretend to be stupid. Although Shire is not in the family, he has been wandering in the dark world, and he is more precise in his understanding of the world. When facing Ryuichi, number 1 was clearly prepared. He knew that his plan to assassinate Ryuichi had failed. So with his character, he would definitely want to use the assistance of the cursed temple that has set the highest rules in the entire Jujutsu world. But obviously, no one has come to the Temple of Curse until now. The attitude is very clear. Zenin's family, with 3 words, has been able to explain a lot of problems. Although this impersonal family only fancy jujutsu, once the blood of their family can reach the level they want. Even if it is an enemy of the world. The Zenin family, known as the Rogue family, will also protect Zenin Ryuichi. But, as Ryuichi and number 1's curse collided to tear the sky apart, this violated Article 1 of the Jujutsu Act. It is not allowed to show the power of the curse in public to prevent a large number of ordinary people from showing negative emotions. This rule laid the foundation for almost all bills. Even if the Zenin family is influential, they can't openly violate this rule. Boss, now, your trouble is big. From the beginning of the royal contest, there are not a few guys who are holding back their energy and want to trouble you. Look now, it's time for liquidation. Zenin looked at Ryuichi's figure like a god or devil, with an inexplicable light in his eyes. Advertisement. However, I just don't know, who will liquidate whom. Boss. Click. Ryuichi and number 1 stood where they were, as if 2 Ryuichi constantly rushed together. Ryuichi's odd game first came to a halt. That is a certain rule constantly resisting Feng Huchimen's power. This guy can actually resist Feng Huchimen's power. The strength is still above Yada. Yada's strength was already strong enough. If Ryuichi hadn't aroused the power of the gods, he would not be able to break through the power of death. Zenin Ryuichi, time for this body is running out. And, number 1's eyes suddenly looked towards the sky, as if feeling something. The corners of the mouth are slightly pursed, with a bit of remembrance. A few of me don't want to see old friends, they are coming. So, there is no way, I promised him to kill you, but his body can't hold it, it's not a breach of contract. Talking. Number 1 slowly raised a palm. Waves of blue power continued to rush to the palm of his hand. Among them, as if countless years are constantly flowing. Passing away constantly. Try to take this trick. This is this body, the final farewell. Time Joe remembrance. He squeezed his palms tightly. That power surged rapidly between Zumi. Click. The power of Cyan is constantly outlined on the canvas like a crayon. In all the surroundings, countless clocks unexpectedly appeared. The clock kept flowing upstream. The cement turned into sand and the tiles turned into stone. The clouds turned into real water vapor. Everything, under this power, began to constantly return to one of his most primitive appearances. Final farewell. Please, this bodhisattva, you are cursed spirit, don't be so literary. Look at the power that is enough to obscure the origin of everything. A azure blue suddenly appeared in Ryuichi's eyes. Feng Huchimen surged under his feet. Click. The power of time is constantly ingested from the void. The heavens and the earth are mysterious, the universe is wild. Advertisement. The extreme of time, immortality. He looked at the constantly surging power, as if some kind of sentiment appeared in his heart. Feng Huchimen's progress is improving rapidly at an astonishing speed. Ryuichi is right though not knowing all this. He looked at the beautiful and deadly blue. 2 fingers close together. Base. The gossip of Kimen is beginning to reverse. The universe is subverted, and away from the exchange. A burst of golden power flew from his hand. The moment that power appeared. Number 1's eyes shrank sharply. It's him. It's definitely him. This kind of power is absolutely impossible for humans to find. The power is like a big day. The sun is rising, but everything recedes. Wow, that swallows everything, and all the power of the ecstasy is constantly fading like the tide. Click. There was a crisp sound, and a crack appeared on number 1's face. He looked unwillingly at Ryuichi, who seemed to be immersed in some kind of power. Touched the wound on his forehead again. Never mind. We will meet again. Click, click, click. The moment his voice fell. The oldest cursed spirit, what is the existence beyond death and time? Hypothetical cursed spirit among the Shuden boys, Ibaraki boys and others have quietly recovered. This episode of the plot is taking over the chapter of the Star Origin body, and it is beginning to gradually integrate into the original, but the author does not want everyone to watch a novel that has always followed the original plot. Brothers, the new plot that I have laid for a long time is finally over. Weekly fell to the ground. Base. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Where did the cursed spirit for thousands of years go? Only the last sentence remained in the ear of number 1. I hope you can give me some feedback. It is really hard to write about this subject. I hope you can support me. The author has a whole storyline interspersed with everything, so you can rest assured. The azure blue in his eyes faded quickly. What kind of constraints does Ryuichi's 8 mysterious arts have? The body collapsed like a sand castle submerged by the flood. By the way, does everyone like the role of Mama Jipping? If you like it, I will let her survive. From the perspective of time, she is right now. So I will change the plot based on the appearance of the protagonist as appropriate. For example, Nanami's attitude towards the world after joining the House of All Things, the change of Fushiguro Megumi, who was raised by Zenin, is the essence of Itadori Yuji. Human, your body cannot support my commitment. I have not broken my faith, but you are speechless. The Buddha bone relic radiated a gloomy light and disappeared instantly in his pocket. Chapter 215. Advertisement. Number 1 was lying on the floor feebly, with a stunned look in her eyes. His consciousness was completely suppressed in the body by the cursed spirit just now. Although suppressed, but still can feel everything happening outside. Every power used by that cursed spirit is overhead him. Open black lens bracket time close black lens bracket. That power is strong and transparent. But the price is the whole time of number 1. He thought that trading with cursed spirit is equivalent to demon exchange. But he didn't expect that he hadn't even left the slightest back road. In the face of time, this strong man who has been in charge of the Jujutsu Association for many years is nothing more than an old man who is now dying. Number 1's muddy eyes stared at Ryuichi's figure firmly. I can't wait to engrave his appearance in the depths of my soul until he is reincarnated and reborn. I also want to write down this guy who took everything from him. Maybe even he himself has forgotten, but at first he wanted to take the Rukawa family door from Ryuichi's hand, and it caused such a curse. Zenin. His voice was very weak, and his consciousness began to become muddy. Perhaps he had died under the lapse of time, but the endless anger was still supporting his body. As for everything happening outside, Ryuichi at this moment is totally ignorant. He seemed to be immersed in a world where he was alone. This is a world surrounded by gold, and this world is constantly changing in front of Ryuichi's eyes. Everything seemed to keep turning with his mind. Time stagnates in this world. Everything seems meaningless. This is one of the interior scenes of Feng Men. Universe. At the moment when the cursed spirit, who controlled the time, wanted to annihilate everything, Ryuichi brazenly launched Feng Men to confront him. It was also at that moment. He had an epiphany, facing the terrifying force that brought all time back to its roots. Ryuichi felt a corner of the rule of time between Nasumi. Although there is only a corner, it is enough to make his Feng Men's progress greatly increased. The control of the time in the odd door game is even stronger to a certain level. Time is not about how much you have, but how you use it. His eyes closed slightly, in the endless golden light, like a god. Advertisement. Base. The huge crack in the sky cannot be healed for a long time, and countless black forces continue to tear the space that wants to heal again. Gojo Satoru volleyed into the air, putting his hands together. A burst of curse power surged over him. Whoops. Click. Countless black and ink auras instantly wrapped everything in the Jujutsu Association. But in the eyes of outsiders, it returned to normal with this sky. Under the power of the curse, ordinary humans will only see what Gojo Satoru wants them to see. What's the situation? Was it an illusion just now? Isn't someone taking a picture? Take it out and have a look. Ah, what's the situation? On my phone, obviously. The group of people who had just seen the scene in the sky were eroded by a burst of invisible power, and their bodies stood stiffly in place. Da 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 da. A burst of crisp footsteps sounded abruptly. The 4 men in black wearing masks looked at the people who were stopped, glanced at each other, and then quickly deleted the photos on their phones one by one. Captain, it's done. Me too. Me too. The man in black moved very quickly, and the hundreds of people watching this scene were almost deleted from the photos in the phone within a few seconds. The headed man in black has a swirling vortex on his mask. He looked at his friends returning to his side, nodding. Next moment, Kaka. That weird power made a comeback again, and swept over this group of guys again. People's movements began to return to normal. I'm here. Go home, and work tomorrow. Damn, why is it so late? I can't catch the subway. People seem to have completely forgotten everything before, and once again become the little beasts busy in the steel-deep forest to survive. Looked at the crowd that dispersed. Advertisement. The four men in black nodded in satisfaction. It seems that someone has come over and put down the tent before us. Seeking flowers. The head of the person looked at the darkness in the sky, with no fluctuations in his eyes like the Dead Sea. Boss, the cursed temple led a sanctioned Zenin Ryuichi, shall we go? A burly man with a big mountain painted on his mask asked in a naive tone. FK. That's Zenin Ryuichi, what the boss was like. In the prince test, who of us dare to do something, are you stupid? As soon as this big man spoke, he was stunned back by a thin man next to him like a cannon. These people, even though they are in the curse hall, are in fact only the children of aristocratic families who come from 100 families and want to come to the curse hall for gilding. The strength is certainly good. But on that day, Zenin Ryuichi, with his own power, flattened half of the Jujutsu family's children, they did not forget it at all. Especially the boss among them. Ryuichi almost burst his heart with a punch. Afterwards, the curse doctor told him that if it weren't for Zenin Ryuichi's intention to kill, he had been dead on the spot long ago. But now when he hears his little brother talk about this past, his old face is also blushing. Zenin Ryuichi, we can't afford it. Hearing this, the three of them joined together. Thinking of the bloody, murderous figure in white clothes, they dare not go to Ryuichi for even the slightest trouble. The boss, what do you mean, let's not go directly? The elders are not easy to explain. The brawny man is still a little worried. Although Ryuichi is very strong, the punishment of Mantra Temple is also unclear. You are stupid, the punishment of the cursed temple is at best a skinny, then if Zenin Ryuichi does it, maybe your muscles will go directly into the soil for safety, okay. The person who was speaking was the thin man who had stunned the big man just now. But, the strong man wanted to explain something. But before he could speak, he was interrupted by his boss. I saw that the boss's eyes turned thiefly. Then he looked at the cracked sky and thought about it. The building, we have to go up. Zenin Ryuichi, we can't offend yet. Although the punishment on the cursed temple is not heavy, I don't want to suffer it either. Big brother, what do you mean, 2? Chapter 216. Advertisement. The man in black who had not spoken suddenly spoke and looked at his eldest brother waiting for his decision. Come with me. A way to neither be beaten nor punished, I have thought of it. Oh, how come you don't even get an account? It's okay now, the group of undead people are probably on their way here now. Gojo Satoru fell from the sky swayingly. Looked at Ryuichi who had fallen into a certain mysterious realm. Gently smashed his mouth. Although he doesn't know what state Ryuichi is in, he can perceive it by knowing how to perceive the power of the mantra. Ryuichi is now falling into an extremely mysterious state. His body and mind are constantly undergoing transformation. Senior Gojo. Nanami Kento saw Gojo Satoru and trot all the way to his side. In the original book, although Nanami Kento newly trusts Gojo Satoru's strength, he does not respect this frivolous and unpunctual guy. But it's different now. Nanami Kento didn't join Jujutsu Academy like in the original book, but under the introduction of Gojo Satoru, he met Zenin Ryuichi and became an intern at All Things House. The two didn't have much contact, so Nanami didn't understand the temperament of this predecessor. Therefore, he still respects Gojo Satoru very much. After all, without Gojo Satoru, Nanami might really join Jujutsu Academy like the original. It's Nanami, how are you doing? I heard that you have become famous recently. 15-year-old second-level Jujutsu teacher, good. Gojo Satoru looked at his junior and hugged his shoulders frivolously. Ashamed, it was all taught by Senior Shire. What I said, it turned out that you were brought by that idiot. If you want me to teach you, maybe you are now at the first level. While talking, Gojo Satoru dangled half of his eye and glanced provocatively, leaning on the ruined wall and smoking Shire. The tone is very ridiculous. Tusk, just like you, if you come, I am afraid Nanami can't even use Jujutsu now. Of course, Shire didn't want to make Gojo Satoru mean, and immediately retorted. I heard that you are now the deputy store manager. I tell you, Ryuichi was the first to invite me to join the House of All Things. When I graduate, your position will be mine. You'd better think clearly about your attitude towards me, otherwise I will give you small shoes. Shire sneered and glanced at Gojo Satoru disdainfully. The meaning of those eyes is clearly saying, you fart. No. Advertisement. Gojo Satoru looked at Shire, just about to continue to say something. Suddenly a big hand pulled him directly from Nanami. Sha Yuji looked at the two with a pained expression on her face, like a child arguing. One with the strongest body, one with the strongest jujutsu. It's like two kindergarten students. Is it this time now? I have noticed that there is a strong guy approaching, and Tai head is shaking. On Sha Yuji's shoulder, a cursed spirit that looked a bit like an owl was shaking constantly, as if he had felt something. At the same time, behind the door, the big man's hands were sealed, and a burst of invisible power enveloped the four of them. Their bodies seemed to melt into the wall. Can't feel the slightest breath. Big brother, you are too witty, we will just watch it here, and don't go up or leave. Who would dare to say that we didn't come, we just didn't show up. The accent of the brawny man was inexplicably like a big star, and he was indescribably stupid. When the three of them heard this, they also looked at him with a black line. You are a genius who specializes in moi. Come on, come here, eldest brother will add a buff for you. The boss looked at the big man with a gentle look, and waved his hand with a smile. What's the matter, brother, what buff to add? Pung. 1. A heavy iron fist hit directly on the strong man's head. In an instant, an exaggerated big bag was born on his head. There was even a burst of white smoke. Ooh, what are you doing, big brother? The big man touched his head aggrievedly. I don't understand what I said wrong, so I have to endure it all at once. Stop talking, or I'm afraid I can't help but give you the last buff. The elder brother said bitterly. I only feel that if I have a mission with the fourth child, I can be mad to death. Oh, is this just adding buff? It looks very fun, I'll give you a look too. Who? The eldest brother drew back abruptly, and the cold voice in his ears made him stand upright. Dwang, dwang, dwang dwang. Advertisement. But the next moment, a very fast black shadow flashed rapidly among them. 4 consecutive muffled noises. A big bag suddenly appeared on their heads. Click. This is not so easy for the boss to beat the fourth. The strength is so tyrannical that the heads of these people will almost explode. They all fell helplessly on the ground. Oh oops, what's bad to learn to peeping. Shire looked at the 4 people who fell on the ground. There was a trace of contempt at the corner of his mouth. It seems to be laughing at the ignorance of a few people. In front of the assassin king, invisible. Haha, isn't it a bit too dismissive of yourself? For Sheer, who has heavenly restriction. No matter what kind of curse power, as long as it appeared in his perception, it was as bright as a light in the dark night. He grabbed the headed person and threw it directly at Gojo Satoru. Base. It's like a large bowling ball. Clang. The big bowling ball was directly stopped by some invisible force the moment it was about to hit Gojo Satoru. It fell to the ground with a clatter. The guy in the cursed temple. Gojo Satoru looked at it and recognized the identity of the visitor. Do you know this trick? Shire once again returned to Nanami's side. One foot was directly on the person's body. The guy in the curse hall, you can see from his mask, it should be the code name, Fire. Gojo Satoru said casually. This cursed temple that was extremely awe-inspired by the world really didn't have the slightest respect in his mouth. After all, looking at the entire Jujutsu world, apart from Zenin Ryuichi, he can really make his presence seriously, almost none. No matter how strong the older generation is, they dare not touch him anymore. After all, his Gojo family and his ancestors are still there. The man in black, codenamed Fire, was stepped on by Shire, and he wanted to cry without tears. Damn, why didn't you see it, Zenin's evil star? Chapter 217. Advertisement. His brother's family biography, Jujutsu, can hide everything, but he can't escape the monster's perception. The guy's looking around. The Fire felt like he had come to the ground where he shouldn't have come. Was the smiling guy, in the legend, with the power of one person, the Super Jujutsu Division, Shayuji, who swallowed an entire cursed spirit legion. And this handsome silver-haired guy eating cake, it must be Gojo Satoru. Although that kid didn't know him, his aura was not much weaker than himself. Not to mention that she stepped on her body. Zenin abandoned son, Tianyu tyrant, Jujutsu killer, the Jujutsu master who died in his hands is not 800 but 1000. Gone. Old Immortal, did you really let us judge Ryuichi? Damn, how do I think our family offended you? You guys are going to kill 4 of our brothers. Zenin Shire went on with that punch, saying that it was heavy, and that it was light and light. However, given the physical state of the 3 boys, for a while, I'm afraid I won't be able to wake up. You better let me go, the elders of the Curse Hall are on their way. Haoqiang suppressed the tremor in his heart, pretending to be calm. So 23, you are here to judge this guy's first march. Gojo Satoru looked at the Fire with a wicked look, and the direction of his fingers was Zenin Ryuichi, who was immersed in the realm of comprehension. Upon hearing this, Nanami Kento's eyes sharpened instantly. It was like a sharp sword out of its sheath. The weapon in his hand clenched unconsciously. Not long ago, he had already made the determination to get rid of all the existence that was unfavorable to his boss. I heard Gojo Satoru say that this person is going to judge Zenin Ryuichi. The curse power in his body unconsciously radiated. Looking at the Fire blankly. The steps under my feet are stepping away step by step. Like a hungry ghost about to hunt everything. Senior Gojo, are you right? Do you want to judge my boss? She was dumbfounded by the Fire that she could not move under her feet. Why is your kid so murderous, and you already know that I'm from the Cursed Temple? Why doesn't it feel at all? It's okay if you don't give the Jujutsu Association any face. Click. Perhaps it was because of the heavy breathing that attracted Shen's attention. Advertisement. As if afraid that he would break free, the strength under his feet increased again, crushing a crack in his bones. I'm not from the cursed temple. I came to want to join the house of everything. Seeing that the power of sheer on his body was pressed down from his body like a crusher, Nanami Kento kept approaching like a demon. In the fire, his inspiration flashed. Shouted the words just now. This sentence really stunned everyone. They all looked at the fire with question marks. Just now. Click. Above the sky, a huge palm suddenly appeared. The palm of his hand slowly touched the torn firmament with unspeakable power. The sky is like folds on the bedding, gently smoothed. The horrible crack before seemed to cease to exist. Is it counted? Elder. Huo looked at the big hand in the sky, and was about to shed tears when he moved with excitement. And after feeling the power, everyone looked at the huge palm soothing everything with a serious face. Ryuichi and the cursed spirits confrontation. The torn gap. The power in it is equivalent to the new power formed after the collision of the two forces. Even touching is equal to directly facing the bombardment of the two. And this giant hand was able to smooth the gap lightly. Suddenly the sky was covered by bursts of bright light. 3 huge figures appeared in front of everyone, using the sky as a curtain to transform the shadows of the 3. Although there was only one figure, even Gojo Satoru did not dare to underestimate the power behind this figure. That is a force that can make him feel threatened. Wow, Kaka, everything that was destroyed by the aftermath of the battle is constantly floating. Slowly returned to the place where he once ought to exist. Advertisement. This kid is the kid from Zenin's family. Sure enough, it's a bit heroic. Among the 3 figures, the little figure on the far left was the first to speak. There was no questioning in his tone, but he brought a bit of appreciation. Gojo Satoru and others looked at each other. I thought I was going to trouble Ryuichi, but now it looks like it's not. These 3 others don't know, but Gojo knows it clearly. As the core of the Jujutsu world, Master Tianyuan guards everything and becomes the strongest shield. And these 3 living in the cursed temple, the 3 who have never appeared easily, are the strongest spears waiting for the opportunity to wipe out all the cursed spirit. Even the big 3 sorcerer families will regress under the will of the 3 of them. 3 seniors, long time no see. In this scenario, only Gojo Satoru, who is from a famous background, still has some qualifications to speak. Even though Sha Yuji and others are powerful, they are indeed insignificant compared to these few. The kid from the Gojo family is not bad. It's really good to be able to see Six Eyes again. The 3 huge figures fell into silence. A clever tongue. When did Gojo's family have a kid who can talk like this? It even violated the first law, tearing the sky apart, allowing some ordinary people to see that scene. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Hear what Gojo Satoru said. Thank you for the predecessor's weirdness. I know that several seniors are here for my friends. But according to my understanding, the #1 acting president of the Jujutsu Association wanted to murder my friend more than once. The backmost figure who has not spoken slowly spoke. This time, it was the burly figure in the middle. His voice was bright and majestic, and his breath was even more magnificent and extraordinary. But he not only violated Article 3 of the code, he exploded curse power in a place with a large number of people like Tokyo. But in the face of these 3, even if they believe that they are the strongest Gojo, they have no confidence to provoke them now. In at least 10 years, these 3 will be Tien in this Jujutsu world. Even if Zenin Ryuichi is for self-preservation purposes, I can understand the killing of #1. His voice was as sharp as a blade. Ryuichi is out of self-protection, and the method is a bit too extreme, but it doesn't matter. In normal times, Gojo Satoru is also lazy to reason with others. The power revealed was the master of the giant palm that smoothed the sky just now. He didn't even want to say a word to those false Jujutsu seniors. Chapter 218. Advertisement. The man's voice exploded like thunder. As if his anger was the anger of these sentient beings, in the entire space, his scolding was repeated continuously. It is as if the gods of all beings are adhering to his will. Buzzing. With his yelling rebuke, an invisible shock rushed towards Ryuichi, who was in a state of epiphany. The speed of the impact was so fast, it seemed to have torn a hole in the space. There is endless depth. Bass. Pung. Rumble. At the moment when the power was tearing everything apart, a young man wearing a black tights instantly broke through layers of void and appeared right in front of the impact. His palms were raised, and there was a cynical smile at the corners of his mouth. I said, Senior, what do you want to do to my friend? Hey. Click. Rumble. In the palm of Gojo Satoru's hand, a force composed of countless compressed and condensed thrusts quickly condensed. At the moment when the impact is about to fall, he burst out in an instant with endless brilliance. Empty. Rumble. The moment the two forces bombarded together, the surroundings were now plunged into silence. That is the moment when the ultimate power meets. The powerful curse power interferes with the source of all sound collisions. Next interest. These two powers began to twist and deform in the midair, and finally returned to nothingness. Only a black spot the size of a bean was left, slowly spinning. Gojo Satoru, he violated the rules of the code and should be punished. You mean now, do you want to be an enemy of us? Enemy against the cursed temple that has guarded mankind for thousands of years. Have you figured it out? The man yelled at Gojo, and all beings in the world seemed to be constantly questioning him at the same time. Advertisement. Questioning why Gojo Satoru is so stubborn. Feel the countless noise in your ears. There was a smile at the corner of Gojo Satoru's mouth. A refreshing smile. The smile seemed to say more. If I am here, I am an enemy of this world, so why not? Senior, your reenactment jujutsu is stronger again, and even your will can be reenacted by you. I really don't want to fight against you. If you win, you will be said to be bullying the old man. If you lose, you will be told that you are playing a fake match, which is really troublesome. Talking. Gojo Satoru took off his sunglasses, the azure blue eyes, staring deeply at the shadows in the sky. In my eyes countless stars and rivers turn, the sun and the moon are subverted. It seems that everything does not evolve in the six eyes. Hearing Gojo Satoru's rampant words, the man was obviously taken aback. Then an anger surged in my heart. How many years have it been? No one has dared to talk to himself like this for many years. He laughed furiously. Question mark. Ha ha ha. Gojo Satoru, don't you think that with six eyes, I dare not touch you? I'm telling you, even if there is no six eyes, we are just missing a whole card, as long as we are still there. This world is not your turn to speak. Click. There was a thunderous roar in the sky. Mirror everything. As if because of the old man's anger, the world began to tremble. I'm asking you once, really want to stop me from waiting? The kid from the Gojo family, we won't do anything to him. His talent is very high. He is a rare talent in the Jujutsu world. We just want to bring him back to sharpen his temperament. He is immersed in Jujutsu at this moment. In the higher realm. In this state, he can't perceive everything in the outside world. You let us take him away. There is no fight or dispute. Is this bad? The image of the short figure who spoke first was to persuade Gojo Satoru in general. There is kindness in the words. Haha, senior, I don't care much about things, I want fewer things. However, I have never missed what I want from birth to now. Zenin Ryuichi is my friend, so, I said, you can't take him away. Just can't take it away. Rumble, click. When the voice fell, Gojo Satoru exploded with terrifying power. That power seemed to condense everything in the void and shatter everything. Infinite, and innumerable infinite are constantly outlined. Advertisement. The aura like a demon god constantly erupted on Gojo's body. Click. The space seemed to be unable to bear such an unlimited superposition, and uttered a few sorrows. Please enlighten me. At this moment, Gojo Satoru's voice changed from the frivolity and looseness of the past, and became extremely cold and solemn. Zenin Ryuichi's is the only kind he recognizes, and even Ryuji can't reach that height in his heart. This world is so boring. The appearance of Ryuichi was the key to breaking his boring life. No matter who it is, all the guys who want to bring themselves back to those boring days are against me. He looked into the sky, the figure that had enveloped the Jujutsu world for thousands of years, and declared war like a dragon. Base. Shayu appeared by Gojo Satoru's side at some point, with her fingers close together, her eyes narrowed, her mouth still with that iconic friendly smile. Diaresis 3 seniors, I'm sorry, Gojo is too self-willed, but there is no way, who makes us brothers, his friends, and my friends, you guys, I'm afraid I won't take him away today. Before he finished his words, a black whirlpool appeared behind him, and countless cursed spirits kept surging in it. It seems that a world belonging to the cursed spirit is opening its doors. Click. A black shadow flickered a few times in the midair, and stepped into the air, landing beside Ryuji, stepping on the head of the jellyfish. Hey, 3 old guys, you should know Lao Su, I finally found a place that is satisfactory, you actually want to ruin these and kill you. Shi'er held a long knife in his hand, Ma Qian Zhao, and bursts of black light radiated from the blade. Boss, the knife you gave me was the first tough fight, but it was fought for you. Remember to raise my salary. Nanami Kento, although he didn't rush to Shi'er. But the giant blade in his hand slowly walked up to Ryuichi. Click. The heavy blade plunged deeply into the ground. He stood there without saying a word. Like a patron saint. When I live, no one can touch you. These people are almost equivalent to the strongest among this young generation. And now, because Zenin Ryuichi was in a state of epiphany, they had always been extremely proud and stood in the same camp for the first time. Looking at that figure standing high above, like a god. There was a chuckle at the corner of Gojo Satoru's mouth. If you want to take Ryuichi away, try it. If you can do it. Chapter 219. Advertisement. For an instant, everything between heaven and earth fell into solitude. Everything ends up being constantly subverted. The figure in the sky stared coldly at everything on the ground. Taking the sky as the curtain, reflecting his godlike figure. What do you think? The existence provoked by Gojo Satoru asked his companions next to him. Although the tone was plain, there was deep anger hidden in it. Zenin Ryuichi is from the Zenin family after all. The figure with the endless holy light in the middle spoke. Although I haven't finished the words, these few people are all mature people, and there is no need for more information. Tisk, peace is the most important thing, and peace is the most important thing. The thin figure still haha, but inexplicably, his voice actually caused countless air currents to whirl in the air. Oh, little Gojo, your elder and I are very good friends, I want to ask you a word. Are you willing to challenge the Supreme Code? Challenge the dignity of the Supreme Code of Immortality for your friends. The originally kind voice kept becoming majestic. As if for a moment, that amiable elder jumped into the aloof emperor. Examining all beings. The Supreme Code is the 12 regulations set up to limit the Jujutsu division whose strength far exceeds that of human beings. It almost includes all the taboos of Jujutsu teacher. The Jujutsu division does not execute the death penalty. Compared with ordinary humans, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of people, will give birth to a Jujutsu teacher. Let alone the rarity of the Jujutsu teacher, just talking about the curse that will be produced when a Jujutsu teacher dies is already a headache. So in the code, there is only one punishment for Jujutsu teacher, and that is ban. The never-ending ban. Once the sentence of prohibition is imposed by the mantra, the judgment of whether to release or not is completely determined by the mantra. Semicolon. The existence of ban has been circulating for thousands of years. His regulations are absolutely impossible to change. But the complexity and simplicity of the Jujutsu world is also fully demonstrated in this code. The Jujutsu division exists to fight the cursed spirit. As long as Master Jujutsu shows the strength enough to smooth out his mistakes, then he can wipe out the crimes he committed. The 12th article of the mantra, when the strength of the Jujutsu division can smooth out everything, it will cancel all the 11 regulations. Note. Networking is equivalent to a part of strength. Note. The highest trial will judge whether the Jujutsu division's strength can reach the scope of smoothing the crime. At the moment, the behavior of Gojo Satoru and others, although it seems very unreasonable, does comply with the 12th regulation of the mantra. Gojo's previous sentence has enlightened me. It is like these three who are issuing applications for the 12 regulations. Advertisement. Senior, I have said that I don't have many friends. Everything has to wait before he wakes up. But since you can't wait any longer, then the kid has to offend. Gojo Satoru's eyes were slightly raised, and the azure blue eyes gleamed with a strong sense of warfare. Behind him, Shayuji and Shire also said nothing. However, one man's curse power is concentrated, and the other's muscles are tightened. Rumble, click, a thunder blasted again, as if Tiangong was furious. The figure of a thin figure slowly got up. That moment. An unspeakable force kept rippling between the world and the earth. Buzzing. Empty. The space is constantly compressed by some terrifying force. A series of black particles appeared out of thin air. As if wanting to swallow everything. That power is neither turbulent nor violent. Since the moment it appeared, the source of all power seems to have become its rhizome. The black particles seem to drown everything. Click. Countless spaces tremble under the black particles. Facing such a shocking scene, Gojo Satoru's palm couldn't help making a fist slightly. Because he noticed it, the old man Jujutsu in front of him can even erase his unlimited technique. Even if he summons infinity, he can hardly resist the terrifying black particles. It's a monster-like existence. Gojo Satoru couldn't help thinking of it. This kind of force compresses and distorts everything, even if it can control the infinity at the atomic level, it cannot resist that force at all. For thousands of years, there are countless guys who have wanted to overthrow them with the 12th article. There are only one hand. Gojo Satoru, are you sure? Click. Accompanied by the faint voice of the old man fell. Countless black particles gathered together. It's like a black hole that can swallow together. Inside the black hole, it seems to be connected to a world that represents destruction. Enlighten me. Seeing all this, Gojo Satoru was unmoved, and white light appeared on his body. That power is far beyond the finite and infinite, detached from reality, and wandering in the imaginary nothingness. Advertisement. Seeing Gojo Satoru rushing out at any time, the old man suddenly burst out with a terrifying laugh. Ha 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 ha. Good boy, the first level, you passed. 2. I have no problems. Shockson, they passed. After the thin silhouette said, it fell again. The first prerequisite of the 12 regulations is the determination to overthrow everything. Obviously, facing the power that has surpassed human imagination. Gojo Satoru and others did not regress in the slightest, and apparently met his requirements. Although everyone didn't know why the old man suddenly stopped, they heard the meaning of his words. I was also relieved. The black hole that is enough to swallow the stars is a fear that humans cannot surpass. Kara, you don't want to care, do you? Humph. Then I will conduct this trial this time. The old man who was provoked by Gojo first snorted coldly. He looked at the man in the middle and said, you have no objection. The figure in the middle that looked like a Buddha smiled helplessly. Then his hands clasped gently, without saying a word, his figure continued to hide. He actually disappeared so quietly. Null. Click. The figure stood up slowly. It was like walking out of the sky above the sky. It turned into a figure shrouded in golden light. It is a body condensed by pure curse power. Between the breaths, endless power burst out, and the space was slightly distorted because of his breathing. Yeming, let me remind you. At that moment when light and shadow appeared through the sky. The little old man called him like a warning. The voice was a little unspeakable. His surname is Zenin. As the voice fell, his figure disappeared like a dandelion. Since the right of adjudication has been handed over to Yeming, the other two cannot participate in it. Hearing that person's words, Yeming turned into a light and shadow, cursing power surged all over his body, and a smirk appeared at the corner of his mouth. Of course I know, he is Zenin. Boom. In an instant, the power capable of annihilating everything erupted in an instant. The entire sky tears again. Chapter 220. Advertisement. Click. Pong. The bursts of black thunder seemed to have broken through countless voids and reflected on the world. The breath of terror engulfed everything in an instant. That kind of power is constantly re-engraving everything. His breath seemed to be repeated countless times, and between each breath, it seemed like a hurricane roared. Empty. Are you ready to wait? Ready to meet my anger? Are you ready for the world's tallest trial from Jujutsu? Rumble. His voice is not loud. But the thunder in the void seemed to keep reenacting his voice. It is like a god and Buddha repeating his words over and over again. His will is all beings. His reputation is Vientiane. Feeling the inexplicable power, Gojo Satoru's eyes were a bit of inexplicable solemnity. This man called invincible. The muscles of the whole body are constantly tightening. The curse power kept surging on his body. Shire, this guy's jujutsu can reproduce everything, remember, it's a reproduction, not a copy. As soon as Gojo Satoru's voice fell, his figure shot out instantly. Base. The tyrannical curse power is constantly condensing under his feet, and the thrust of the unlimited spell is acting quickly. He looked at the light and shadow floating in the air. The corners of his mouth brought a trace of killing intent. Let me see how much your dignity is worth. Buzzing. In front of Gojo Satoru, the space is like a flower-like spread of layers. It is a beautiful flower that has never appeared in the world before. With the appearance of this petal, it seems that everything has lost its meaning. This jujutsu flower, mixed with a trace of the power of emptiness, is destined to annihilate everything from the moment it was born. Senior, try this trick with me. Dream Roland. Wow. The beauty that was blurred in the emptiness and reality quietly bloomed at this moment. Click. The space was swept by this force in an instant. Countless petals are constantly engulfing space in all this. Beautiful and deadly, facing such a terrifying blow. A hint of surprise appeared in Yimeng's eyes. This power is not a simple technique with no lower limit. It does not exist between finite and infinite, it is absolute nothingness. Although there is only a trace, the power is already stronger than the power of the unlimited technique. Gojo family, what you hide is really good, this kind of nihilistic power. Not enough to see. Advertisement. A sneer couldn't help but surface to his mouth. A dazzling light suddenly radiated from his whole body. The infinitely overlapping magic power is like a piece of white paper that is constantly folded. Among the countless folds, the curse of the space rippled. Base. Click. In an instant, there were waves of fish scales in the space. Click. The moment the two forces collided together. There was no explosion, no roar, and some just disappeared in an instant. Countless forces are twisted. The world has changed. The curse is superimposed on layers. Everything falls into nothingness. Yimeng looked at everything that emptiness faded. There was a bit of disdain in his eyes. Even if it is nothingness, you should bow down in front of me. Base. But the next moment, a black shadow instantly appeared before his eyes. Shier's face was still so bohemian. Above the left hand, the black force is constantly eroding his arm like silt. And the source of that power is the long knife in his palm. Uncle, don't get distracted when fighting. Base. As the long sword swept across, the sword energy broke through layers of void. The half-moon light kills all beings. At this moment, Zenin Shier seemed to have turned into an evil spirit Ruksha that crawled out of that purgatory. Evil spirit. 7 kills greedy wolf. The shadow of the knife turned into a sky full of cherry blossoms, and the stream of light was like a green glow. Yimeng seemed to appear in front of her eyes, and then the light and shadow beside the bridge. The long river of sticks cuts off forever. There was a sudden burst of light in his eyes. Click. The palm of the hand was quickly raised, and it split into a knife. Between waves, an extremely terrifying curse exploded in an instant. Rumble. That power was in the void, as if it had turned into a beast from ancient times, and it slashed towards Shire and bit it. Pong. Click. That slash broke instantly. Next moment. Without waiting for any response, Yimeng's figure had already appeared before Shier's eyes. Seeking flowers. Advertisement. His fist raised slowly, seemingly so slow. But in the eyes of Shier, it seemed to have surpassed the moment. Pong. The power of horror instantly exploded above Shire's stomach. Poof. With just one punch, Zenin, who was known as the strongest body, was curved like a cooked prawn, his eyes protruding, and a mouthful of blood spurted out of the corner of his mouth. Click. Rumble. He was like a baseball that was blown off, falling quickly to the ground. Hehe. Heavenly restriction, but so Compared to Miyamoto Musashi, you are still far behind. Inexplicably, Yi Meng suddenly thought of the legendary man. Entering Curse Valley alone, it's hard to get out of half-life. ... One person, one knife, guard the world. The body will die, but the soul will not die. Kill everything with one knife in 2 days. There was a tremor in his mind. Just at this moment, a huge shadow suddenly appeared behind him. It was a huge monster with a length of tens of meters. The whole body is pitch black, only a big mouth is open. Whoops. He swallowed Yeming directly into his stomach in one bite. Sha Yuji stood on top of the monster's head, pinching the Jew with both hands. His face is still smiling like that. But instantly, his good face, which seemed to remain unchanged for thousands of years, collapsed suddenly. His feet exerted force in vain. Jumped out of the monster. Almost at the same time he was leaving the cursed spirit. Buzzing. Buzzing. A golden light instantly burst from the body of the cursed spirit. Click. The cursed spirit couldn't even hold it for a second. It turned into a burst of black smoke and dissipated. Users of cursed spirit operation should keep a distance from the strong. A gloomy voice slowly sounded in Sha Yu's ear. His squinted eyes opened in horror. Shiyu. Seeing this scene, Gojo Satoru rushed towards Sha Yuji frantically. But at the moment, it's already too late. He saw that an extremely bright power appeared in Yi Meng's hand. It seems to be the only one between heaven and earth. Perhaps it was the tyranny of that power. There was a rare trace of despair in Sha Yuji's eyes. Earth.